Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. I am Game Master Roger, as always, and I am joined today by Jason over here, to my right, I guess, yeah, or to my, well, yeah. Top center, we got Jason and Decado next to him. How's it going today, guys?
Good. Very
And
good.
Most
right
excellent.
nice. Right underneath me is George, joining us from a secret remote location. That's why he can't have his camera on. And next to him on the bottom, we've got Matt Elias, who's we've been in a lot of games of yours down in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
I think every convention, probably at least 2 games every time we've gone down there. Dragon's Bane and I think some Morkborg, some DCC
And Mothership.
Stuff. Weird Frontiers, Mothership. Those games were awesome. By the way, we still talk about those.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm trying to think. In Vaults of Arn,
was
we were in
fun.
that game.
Yeah, yeah.
That was crazy. Yeah, good times. So today we're talking about combat. Everything from where it all starts in surprise all the way down to through attack to hit rolls, damage, critical failures, critical fumbles, morale, and PC death, and all that fun stuff. So looking at that list, I don't know if we can get to it all, but if anybody's got any questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. The algorithm tells me I have to say those things, so click all the buttons. Subscribe to if you're not subscribed to Decado's channel, subscribe to him, and if you're on his channel and not subscribed over here, jump over here and subscribe. So Shellback says that he took an hour to find the live stream. We appreciate your effort, sir, and we waited for you.
You're a good man.
Right to persevere.
So thanks for making it. Yeah, I was starting at 7 a.m. I guess you guys took a break of daylight savings. Yeah, it's I don't know if it's 8 a.m. If it's 8 a.m. where you are, then you must be pretty far away.
What, Australia?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. It's the only place where I think it's the next morning.
Yeah.
Well, there or something. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I guess we could jump right into this because it's going to take a while. I think the first thing that happens in combat, right, is a surprise roll, and that's one that I think a lot of modern systems skip. Oh, Japan!
Awesome.
This is Japan.
Oh, cool.
Cool time.
I don't want to derail the chat, so I have questions for you, Shellback, but those will wait.
So surprise, and it's interesting. I think a lot of surprise rolls now you don't see in more modern systems. I don't like. I think I've only seen them in the OSR games. I don't think that even like any of the free league games or anything like that. I don't think that they do that.
I
So,
don't think so.
I guess what is surprise, right? What's that, Ducato?
I would say, yeah, no, I don't remember them in any of the free league games I've played.
I'm gonna have to check Twilight 2000. There may be a surprise mechanic in that. There certainly should be for ambushes and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes sense. And so that's basically what surprise is, right? It's just a roll to say, okay. And generally, I think they're used for like random encounters, or like when you're in a dungeon and you kick a door down, you roll whether the monsters on the other side are surprised or whether the PCs are surprised. So, I don't know how you guys feel. Generally, I only use surprise rolls if it's pertinent, if it's possible for the players to be surprised. If there's a random encounter roll and, the players have like a ranger that's out in front that's scouting or, tracking or whatever, I usually won't do a surprise roll. I'll do a surprise roll for the monsters, but not for the player characters. And things like that. I don't know how you guys feel about surprise or, that kind of mechanic or having that even in a system.
I think because of the amount of time I spent in more modern games, my main game is Cast Crusades. I often forget about the surprise roll altogether, and I use it, but I wouldn't say it even gets used every session.
CNC, I think, does it's an intelligence check.
Wisdom,
I think. A wisdom check. Okay.
Yeah.
I know normally in old school game, normally in the way I do it, even in CNC, is I'll just roll a D6 and on a 1 or a 2, the group is surprised, one group or the
in
other surprised.
CNC, I think it's kind of like almost like an opposed roll. Like one side rolls and the other side, whoever's the best in the party, like the cleric's there, he has the best wisdom, so he's better at not being surprised, I guess. But we kind of fall into, it depends on what we're doing, because like you were saying earlier, like we have a ranger in our party and he's almost always out ahead of the party, him and the rogue scouting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I do it just with them, because the party, if they're out in like wilderness encounter, we kind of like we're not hard and fast with it, but like he'll sometimes be like several miles ahead of the party looking around and
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
Yeah, so
That to me is ludicrous
he'll go out
in an OSR game.
yeah, and I mean, he's not out there looking to get into fights, but he's out there to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
And then depending on the terrain, sometimes he's a couple 100 yards away. But
Yeah. Matt, what you run a lot of different stuff. What have you seen surprise in anything other than like an OSR?
Yeah, I mean, I think mechanically speaking, you're right. I don't know that a lot of games now sort of codify like a surprise round in the rules necessarily. I do feel like I've seen most DMs or GMs running games will have a surprise situation unfold one way or the other. So if the players are ambushing an enemy, or there's a situation where the enemies have laid an ambush for the players, there's different ways to adjudicate that. Like to your point, if someone's scouting ahead, like whatever the mechanic would be for them to spot somebody or be seen by the enemies, right? Whichever way you're doing it.
Right.
I've seen in Pathfinder, people will roll, you'll roll a check, and the people that pass can act in that surprise round with the enemies, and the people that fail don't get to act. So there's a lot of games have different versions of that. And then, Mothership, as written, kind of the monster always goes first, right? So it's like you're always behind the monster, but then you have to pass a speed check if you want to act before. So there's a risk reward for trying to go first, so you're sort of always surprised by the monsters in Mothership. So yeah, I think games do it very differently. I think there's much less of this idea of like, there's a mechanic where you're gonna do it the same way every time with this codified check. And I think in like OSR, it's a lot more of that idea of like, well, situations are going to unfold in different ways, and there's different stats you could use to figure out if somebody's going to get ambushed or not.
Sure. Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't think about that in Mothership, that the bad guys go first, or the monsters go first. That's interesting. I think my experience playing Mothership is ignoring the story and the monsters and
To go
just,
repair a toilet.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that's like,
a lot of Mothership games seem like the players end up almost being the monsters sometimes. So it's just how that game goes. But yeah,
no comment.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's interesting. Jason, any thoughts on surprise?
Of course. Yeah. I like surprise rules. Is like you said, as long as it makes sense. Like if I'm playing my ranger we're out in the wilderness, I like surprise rolls because that's the ranger's purview. I'm scouting ahead 100 feet, 200 feet.
Sure.
So if I spot the ambush, or if I see the orcs or whatever in the distance, that gives the ranger a time to shine. Hey, I've seen something.
Mhm.
Everyone, we're gonna go around, or we're going to approach. Be cautious, whatever. And it's the same, with a rogue type inside a dungeon, but it has to make sense. I've seen people roll for surprise. Oh, you were surprised by 2 hill giants in the open plain. So it's
Yeah.
the size of a semi truck. Am I really surprised by this thing?
Yeah.
And so that kind of annoys me. But if you're out in the open plain, but you're being stalked by some predatory cat, okay, cool. They survive
Yeah.
by being sneaky, so that makes sense, and then I'm fine with that. It's just the situation just has to make sense. I don't like surprise rolls for the sake of surprise rolls, which was
Sure.
that was first edition. Gary was every encounter you roll surprise roll. I'm in
Yeah.
a dungeon. I know there's goblins in here. I don't really think
Right.
I'm going to be surprised by finding goblins where I knew there were going to be goblins. That's
Yeah.
my thing on that.
No, that makes sense. Shellback, I don't remember the surprise mechanic in 3.5, and I
It was
I
a
played
spot
a lot
roll.
of 3.5.
It was. I think it was.
Oh, it
versus-
was just a spot.
yeah. I think it
roll?
was versus spot. Search was like I'm searching for traps, and spot was like, oh, I see something. So
Okay.
Alright.
And so it was just kind of rolled into that. Yeah, because I don't remember a specific like section or anything that was like, for surprise do this, but I don't know. So I guess so we get through surprise, right? And then the next thing we do is roll initiative. Before we touch on initiative though, I think I just want to touch briefly. And I say briefly, and I know we'll get into a huge conversation about this, but since we're talking about combat, how do we encounter balance? Now, I'm a big proponent of rolling random encounters, and they are what they are. And I try and generally give players an out if it's, if you roll a dragon in the plains, I'll usually, say that you see, this huge dragon swoop down and like eat a goat, 10 miles out or 5 miles or whatever, and give the chance, of the players to say, okay, let's not go that direction right now, But do you guys generally balance encounters that you run, or
no.
No.
no?
The only time when we're out in the open wilderness, I do not care about balance. If like you said, it's a dragon, we should avoid that. Unless you're playing with Gene, and then we must go talk to the dragon.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But inside a dungeon, I like to say I don't care about balance, but you're in a dungeon. It's very linear. There's really only one place. There's one way you can go. If you throw
Sure.
an unbalanced encounter in the dungeon, it's effectively a roadblock. The dungeon's over.
Right.
The party moves up. Oh, it's a pack of 20 drow, and there's 4 of us. We're done. We're leaving the dungeon, and everyone have a good night. I'll see you next Sunday. And that's terrible. That destroys the game. So in
Are you pointing
situations like
fingers
that,
at anything specific? I'm getting
I don't think so.
no.
We
Oh,
haven't,
okay.
encountered drow. Oh, are you talking about the fire
No,
giants?
no.
No, you
Yeah.
gave us a way out.
Oh, okay.
No, no, no. But it's things like that. You just,
Yeah.
it's so, this goes back to one of the earlier conversations we had where somebody asked about, thinking on the fly, improvisation.
Yeah.
You kind of have to improvise. Okay, my party's weak today. I've got this drow encounter that I really want them to partake in, whatever they're going to decide to do about it. Instead of having 20, we're going to make it 8. It'll be a tough fight. It'll be a fair fight, and everyone can enjoy the time. So, yeah, that's that. But out in the open plains, throw whatever you want at me.
Yeah.
We can
As
always run.
as far as in the dungeon, I generally try, unless it's like a story thing or whatever.
Right.
I'll generally the deeper you go, the harder it'll get. So that kind of happens. Matt, what do you balance encounters?
Yeah, I mean, no, but I would say the thing that I always think about is like the game. So some games sort of expect you to balance, right? So like I think about Pathfinder 2e, right? Pathfinder second edition. There's an assumption if you're sitting down to play Pathfinder, unless maybe it's a homebrew thing, but even then, that like the combat encounters are balanced for the players, right? And that party comp matters, and that strategy matters, and you're playing that kind of game. I think if you sat down and ran a Pathfinder 2e game and just threw a bunch of unbalanced encounters at a party, nobody would be having fun, and nobody would expect that.
Right.
But so like for me, if I'm running games at a con, right, I'm not running 5e Pathfinder. I try to take care to like sort of preface that kickoff conversation by saying these encounters are not balanced for you. Like if you think you can just kick down every door and be a superhero, you're going to die, right? And it doesn't mean that you can't. You're not going to be able to get through most of what's in here if you approach it the right way. But it's just kind of that mindset that like some games, especially today, like modern fantasy games sort of expect there to be encounter balancing, and it's like you're playing Skyrim and the world just levels up with you as you go, and it's always the same difficulty, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I don't find that all that enjoyable, right? Because I think it's just the same sort of flatline experience the whole way through, and it doesn't have those kind of like really cinematic moments. Like how cinematic can they be if everything is basically balanced for you to beat it if you play the game right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
I don't usually those kind of games don't necessarily appeal to me.
Yeah, right. No, and there's definitely some, some balance. Like even in my games, like I wouldn't call it encounter balance, but in like my home game, like just outside the towns, where all these people live, like there's lower level monsters maybe.
Mhm.
That's where the goblins and the orcs and stuff are. There's not going to be like, a hill just over that hill, right from the village. There's 40 fire giants camped out. Like it's never, because they would have just wiped out the village a long time ago or something,
Right.
So generally, like the further away you get from civilization, that the danger increases. But yeah, I mean, I'll roll random encounters out in the wilderness, and it's it is what it is. That's what they run into. But you mentioned like the Elder Scrolls and stuff, and like Diablo 4 does that. Where it's just like you kill this thing right outside of town, and it's level 1 because you're level 1, and then you get out and you come back later, and now there's level 40 goblins right outside of town, and it's
Right.
like,
The modern versions of Assassin's Creed have done that. For those of you that have played it, I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. I did not play Shadows; it's just not for me. But Odyssey, I like the older, the Ezio trilogy, and those are my favorites. But Odyssey, because it takes place during the Peloponnesian War, and I'm such a nut for that, I'm a huge fan of that game. I've played it over and over and over. But the one thing that bugged me about that game was, by the time you leave your starter island, you're level 5-ish, and you can sail off into the middle of nowhere. And for the most part, your enemies are 2 levels higher than you instead of being 30 levels high. There is, just like Matt was saying, there's this level playing field the entire time. There's never this sense of achievement. because I'm level 5, these guys are level 7, and I can still beat them.
Yeah.
I'm level 7, they're now level 9, all the way up until you finish the game. And it's just like, it's
That's
still
crazy,
it's a
yeah.
beautiful game. I still love it. I love the story, but that Ubisoft, excuse me, Bethesda, most modern companies do this with their games. All the Fallouts do this. Yeah, and, Fallout 76, the online version. I'm a huge fan. I play it every day, but they do that. And when Fallout was first introduced, when Fallout 76 first came on, there was level 1 land, and there was level 5, 50 land down in the Cranberry Marsh. You didn't go there unless you were level 50 and strapped. But now you can hang out with the big boys. You're level 1, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Most modern gaming is like that, and it's very disappointing. It gets to feel very boring, and that's sad for me because I'm a huge gamer. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what makes the Dark Souls and Elden Ring, stuff like that so appealing to a lot of people is that they don't do that. That
Yeah.
like it's the game world's not catered to whatever level you're at. If you walk in the wrong place and roll up on the wrong guy, you just get one shot. So, but you see your point. If you come back 30 hours, 40 hours later, then it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it gives you some satisfaction when that guy kicked your ass every single time you went by
Yeah.
him, and then eventually you level up enough to to kick his ass when you come back. Yeah. Yeah, I've been there.
Or
in that
or
game.
if you succeed when you're much lower level, you're like, yes, oh, that was
Right,
so
it's a feel-good
difficult.
thing.
You
Right.
had to put so much thought and effort into it that it really feels good to get that victory.
Yep.
So I think we're all pretty much on the same page with encounter balance.
Stan didn't get to talk.
Stan, yeah, did you? I know you said no for no encounter balance.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
No, yeah, I don't really do it. I mean, like the dungeon thing, yeah. Even then, though, sometimes it's like I don't pay a lot of attention to that, I guess. And my players, they can chime in and how they feel about that. But I stopped doing. I mean, I was running. I ran a lot of like 5th edition, and the rules for encounter balance sucked in that they were broken. So I just started ignoring them. And I told the guys right off the bat, like I was like, you can go wherever you want, but you may not be ready for wherever you go. It's just not going to be the same thing. But
Yeah.
So out and about, I don't generally do like a lot of like just straight up random encounters, mostly because I don't have tables that I like. I probably would if I had better tables.
Roger, what tables? Sorry, Stan. Roger, what tables do you use for random encounters?
I've been using Joe Block's random tables from not from his monster manual, but it is from
Lost
Yes.
Lost tables.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny
Maybe
because
I bought it. Maybe I should use it.
yeah, I use those, and it's interesting. I can see the book and I just can't see the spine of it because it's sitting over where I DM. But yes, it's that one, and they got a lot of random encounters and stuff in there. So I generally roll on that. There are some like results that are, that are weird.
What I do like about the
I don't know
random
what to
encounter
say about
stuff
that.
is
I like Curly Maple.
we played Dragon Slayer, and that has tables built into it, and a system, and every time like if you're searching the room, it takes 10 minutes. That generates a possible encounter. And we would roll our own fate. My son, who ran the game, he would have us roll for if there was going to be an encounter. And but it also, I liked it. I was just talking to some of my guys about it. Like I liked having them in there because then it became very less like blasé about, oh, I'm just searching this dungeon. Well, and a lot of times, in modern games, because there's no mechanic for that stuff. Okay, I just searched the dungeon. Well, and there's no like chance of like a consequence of like, I mean, you may bring a trap or whatever, but that's fine. But like, an ogre wanders into the cave you're looking through. You're like, oh crap! Now what do we do? Fight or die or run?
I was at a convention
like
and played. A friend of mine was running a Tomb of Horror, and he was using the 5th edition one, and it was awful because all the group, they had like a cleric and a rogue and a wizard, and they would go in and go to a door and like check it for traps and like detect alignment, and the wizard would cast detect magic, and then they'd open the door and go in the room, and then whatever, we'd solve the room or whatever, and then be like, okay, everybody's gonna go back outside and we're gonna rest like outside until the next
God.
day, and then come back in and like go to the next door. And
Yeah,
like I got
I
sick of
played
it.
that.
I was just like, yeah, I'm
played that.
just going in the next room. And I'm like, I'm just gonna open the door, and they're like, yeah, but we didn't cast detect magic on it. And I'm like, I don't
I don't care.
care.
Yeah.
No,
Like,
I
I'm
was
going.
I was the same way. I played that adventure, and my friend Chris, he might end up in the chat. He ran it. He did a great job. Like, he's a really good game master. That was, excuse me, not my style of adventure after a while.
Yeah.
Like, I like
Yeah.
like getting there was awesome because it was like a hex crawl getting through the jungles of Chult.
Mhm.
I thought that was great. And some of the stuff in the actual tombs and places you went was cool, but man, I just saw it get slowed down because you'd spring one trap and then progress would grind to a halt because they wanted to. And
Yeah.
I played like a barbarian, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go over and kick that thing over,
Just
and I
kick
don't
the
really
door,
care
yeah.
what happens at this point,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
So
You
and it
got
was
to.
tough. Yeah, you got to do something to move things along, and we would get bogged down a lot,
Door
unfortunately.
kickers
But
progress the game forward.
Yeah.
yep,
Have you guys seen the Monster Overhaul book, the Scruples book?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
Skirples.
just bought it not
Yes.
so long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
is one of
have it.
that is a fantastic book for random monsters. Because it doesn't just, it gives you they're categorized by like where you are,
Mhm.
but it also gives you like motivations and responses, and like it
Yeah.
really like sort of it doesn't just say like it's a goblins or it's a troll or it's whatever. It gives you like a whole set of characteristics for like why they're there and what their motivations are.
Yeah, it's like
Just like
hungry and
instantly
hunting
through
or
all,
something.
yeah, it's
It
really
even
good.
it even gives you recipes.
Oh, it's
For
really
Oh,
good.
really?
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like you
it's
kill it.
like
This is what happens if you eat it.
Carrion
like one
crawler
of the
stew.
one of the best monster manual books I think out there. It's really really good.
I'm gonna have to start using it at the table more.
Yeah, I
Um,
just picked it up.
Is it
like a
is it?
week
I'm
or so.
assuming it's OSR, or is it like system
Yeah,
neutral?
it's
type thing?
system
Just
agnostic.
neutral.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
OSR geared fantasy OSR.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
I'll check it
Yeah.
out.
But you
Yeah.
can take like almost any monster, and it'll give you like a bunch of random different. You can change it so it's not, which I do all the time. Like I
Okay.
do that all the time to my guys. So
Yeah.
and, it's really neat. It's really neat. My Friday night group, they were using it, and I was like, oh, what is that? So I snagged a
yeah.
copy the following day.
Cool.
It's like just that little extra like spice to the encounters that sort of makes them feel
Yeah.
like they're not just like like we're just rolling math against each other. Like it injects
right.
that little extra like just through random generation right at the table. I think it's really good. So
I like that that description, rolling math at each other.
yeah, I mean it just
That's
feels
exactly
like that
what it is.
sometimes, right? It's like
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So.
No, you're absolutely right. That's all it is just a battle of numbers. Who can roll higher numbers quicker?
I like it.
Yep. Yeah.
That's exactly what. Yeah. So I guess that's a counterbalance, right? So initiative. I know this is going to be a big one. Rolling initiative. There's a ton of different systems out there. I don't know. I mean, I started writing stuff down, and then started thinking of everything else. It's the best description for 3.5 I've ever heard.
Rolling
Yeah.
math at each other.
Pretty
Yep.
solid.
Yeah, I mean, Pathfinder 2e feels like that to me sometimes too.
Yeah.
Like as much as if I'm in the mood for it, I like it. It's fine, but like, oh god, sometimes it's just like somebody just roll a 32 or whatever, so we can hit this thing and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But-
Right. I agree with you. Yeah, 100%. So initiative, yeah, there's a ton of different. So there's obviously the standard, D20 system usually uses roll a D20, add your dex modifier, and then you just go in order. I mean, that seems fine for most people. The OSR uses a D6, generally a D6 side-based initiative, which I'm not really a fan of because then with side-based initiative, now you have to, people have to make decisions on their own of like who's going to go first. And, there's usually, decision making that has to happen. I guess that just takes time. That
We
isn't
found it pretty
necessarily
quick.
bad.
We do that.
What's that?
We do that. I switched to that. We used to use, because we come from 5th edition where they did the D20 thing, and that just took friggin' forever. And I went to group initiative, and we roll every round. And
Yeah,
once I get
I definitely
once I
roll
get the
every
hang
round.
of it, it's pretty quick. And I mean, I have some rules like, and I don't know where I come up with this, like spellcasters go last, and they have to, they're sorting their spells, doing all that stuff, and then
Yeah,
I don't get as like specific as like some systems like Dragon Slayer or Hyperborea, where it's like if you're shooting missile fire, you go first, and then there's
melee missile magic
melee.
movement.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
don't do
Melee
that,
missile
but
magic movement. That's
I'm a little
that
bit
order.
more free with
I
it.
I kind of like that because it at least like gives you something to do. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
really. It's side based initiative. You say, okay, everybody that's doing in melee, like do it now, right? And then everybody that's doing
Yeah.
missile, do it, and then everybody's magic,
I don't mind
and
that.
then
I just don't do it. I
yeah,
don't have a problem with that. I just don't end up doing it. But I found that the group initiative, or at least with my group,
yeah,
we like it too because it can be swingy. So like if you lose the initiative and go last, but then you win the next round, it's like you get to go twice before they get to go again. And we've had stuff
right,
that's come like
right,
in the round by round is great because we've had stuff that's like literally come down to the wire. Like if you don't win initiative, you're screwed. Like you guys are this will probably be
yeah,
a TPK. We've had several encounters like that. Like, and they've won initiative and then they win the day. And it gives you much more of that, oh my God, we won the day feeling, like it's a big deal. Whereas, and I saw a lot more dynamic stuff going on in combat, and maybe it's directly related to that somehow, than I did with like we were using the more modern like D20 method, where it just was basically rock'em sock'em robots. Like they just back and forth. Nobody was really trying to be like doing like different tactics or anything like that to make the combats more exciting. I think the combats are far more exciting in
yeah.
our Catholic
May-
Crusades game than they were in the previous ones. Part of
Maybe
it's
I'll
because of
do
initiative.
maybe I'll do side based initiative. I'll try that, see what happens. What do you? No, you don't like that idea?
I do not. Excuse me. I got a lot to say about initiative. Sorry, so I'll just start. Chthonic musings, I like it, and that's not just Dragonbane. That's a lot of free leagues.
Yeah, the
They
free
use
league
the,
stuff,
the,
yeah.
the cards.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
like that a lot. I like that there's
Like the cards.
what 1
Yeah.
through 10 or 0 through 9, whatever. And
1
I
through
like
10.
that you can pull the cards out and you're like, I'm going on 2. Who wants a 2? I'll go. I'm
Yeah.
going on 8, but I want to wait. So here, take the 8. I'll take the 2. The mage wants to cast Fireball, but he wants everybody to get in the right position first. So I really like that. I have no problem. I don't care what size die I use. The D20 is ridiculous because the DM's going 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, and that's just, for God's
Right.
sake. But the
We use a
10 is
D10.
right. And, D10 works fine for me. D6 works fine for me. What I like though is I like your dexterity to be added to the initiative. Maybe I'm kind of biased because I tend to play high dex characters. I typically play a ranger or something like that. So I just, I want to shoot first. But I think it's more than that. It's really the higher dexterity. Maybe that character is just paying more attention to the battlefield. Maybe he's just more adept at what's going on. I don't know. It's an abstract, the whole initiative thing, but I really like having dexterity modifiers added to the initiative. I've always liked that. Even if I did not have good dexterity, I still like it. I don't like side-based initiative because to me it doesn't make any sense. If four guys on this side and 4 guys on this side are squaring off against each other, this side doesn't wait for 4 guys to move forward. You're closing in, and then the faster guy is going to get to go. You're poking each other or casting spells or whatever. So I do not like. I dislike side based. I do not like them at all. I have nothing good to say about them. But really, in fact, I made the joke Sunday night as I sat there and couldn't roll over a freaking 5. that I really want to play with Stan so that he and I can sit next to each other and see who actually rolls worse, because I think it would be a good time.
Yeah.
So
Put that to the test.
yeah, but that's why I don't like side-based initiative. If you're using side-based, one guy is rolling. So I roll with my monstrous luck. I roll a 1, and I will roll a 1 all night long.
So what happens with us is obviously with side base, one guy rolls, and that guy gets to roll as long as he keeps winning initiative. And then as soon as he fails, it gets bumped down the line. So we work
Oh,
our
I
way
like
around
that.
the table.
I like that. That's cool. And that way everybody can be involved at some point, because you're not going to win every time.
We do.
Right.
We do see Castle and Crusades, and so I have them. We drop down from a D10 to a D6, and I let them add their initiative modifier.
Yeah.
Or their dexterity modifier rather for initiative.
And Zagig mentioned weapon speed factors, and
yeah,
we were talking about melee missile magic movement. That's something I like from I think it was second edition, but it was one of the original D&D versions. Spell casting times, I love that. You add that to your initiative. It takes longer to cast the spell. Weapon speed factors, my dagger is going to go much faster than your two-handed sword, but when you swing that two-handed sword, you've been hit. So I love weapon speed factors. But in modern gaming, keep track of the die you rolled, keep track of your dexterity, keep track of your casting time or your weapon. And as I've said so many times in these podcasts, the math never scares me. I have no problem doing it at all. But man, there's a lot of players that it's not like anybody can't add 6 + 2 + 1. Everybody can do that. But it's okay. Well, one of our players couldn't do that. That's true.
Yeah. My 10+ years of retail will tell me I did something different. But,
certainly true.
Yeah.
But whether they can or not, most players, they're just like, okay, can I please just roll the little purple die and go when it tells me to go? So it's just kind of adds more complication to it. But I love weapon speeds. To me, it adds that realism that I like.
I do too, but I think it adds a degree of complexity to the game that doesn't need to be there.
Right. It doesn't. It does not need to be there. I just like
part of my attraction to the way we do it is because it's fast.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Coming from a system that was super slow to run combat, 5e, I'm all about speeding up combat. Not shortening your turn as a player, but like I want the combat to like move, and if we have to sit there and and sometimes I'll have up to, if we're doing like a game a weekend, I can have up to 8 people sitting at the table just as a player. So like to go around and do individual and then, and I like doing it every other round. Doing that every round I couldn't do it. It would just bog it down too much for me. So far, like everybody seems to like it. It's kind of like a team event, I guess. Like the one guy gets the roll and then everybody's cheering him on and then he pooches the roll or he wins it, which typically they win. Like I often, very seldom, unless it's, I've had a couple clutch moments where I've won initiative. That's really not worked well for them, but it's worked great for me. But typically they win initiative. I don't do so well, but they all it really gets into it. Like it actually adds a level of excitement to our games. So.
One of the things that I would do, talking about combat speed, is I'll skip people when I was running. When I'm running, if I'm running a group that I'm familiar with and that knows me, people like the guy that we were just talking about that couldn't add 3, 2, and 1. It's okay. Tom, it's your turn. Jason, it's your turn. Bill, it's your turn. And gets to Bill, he goes, I'm gonna. Okay, Jason, it's your turn, because Bill's standing there stunned, trying to decide what he's going to do, and it cures that very, very quickly. What do you mean? I don't get to go? Yeah, you're asleep. You knew it was your turn coming up. You know what you're going to do. Spit it out, because everybody else is waiting for you to do your thing. So you're not going to get to go this turn. Next round, think ahead. As soon as you roll that die, what are you doing? But that's, go back to one of the earlier podcasts. I know how difficult I can be when I'm playing. But
that's not difficult.
That's
managing the table. As far as I'm concerned,
and that's how I feel. But not everybody thinks that way. So,
well, they need to figure out their turn.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Matt? I know that the three of us.
No, you're fine. I wrote down a lot of. I mean, I play a lot of different games, right? So I
Sure.
mean, I think that the D20 plus a modifier thing is I do think there's value to that because it does reward people who amp up stats that tend to let them go earlier in
Sure.
initiative. So there's like a history there that I think is important and works for some games. I will say like one habit I've tried to pick up more that actually Nick Baran, who does the standard stuff, is really, really good at. And I'm trying to emulate this more. Is like when he's running a game, he'll be like, "All right, Roger's up and Jason's on deck," right? Like he's very good at sort of calling out who's up
Yeah.
next. Because the thing with like when you're rolling initiative and the order changes in every encounter, I think that's one thing that like people sort of, especially if you're used to playing board games or something, like the order doesn't move around like that all the time. So it is like like a skill or a muscle memory that when you play a lot of RPGs you pick up, but not everybody has that. And like that's a good way to mitigate that, right? Is like to just be calling out who's on deck. So I'm trying to do that more because I think it helps.
Yeah.
There's like Land of Eam. I don't know if you guys know that game. That's another one that does sort of
I've
like
heard of it. I haven't played it.
Yeah, the turn order sort of depends on what you're doing. So it's like, are you talking? Are you fighting? Are you running away? Like, so it's actually phased out. So like actually the people that are fighting go last. So it's almost like incentivizing like other actions other than just trying to hit people. That's kind of neat.
The Doctor Who game is like that.
Yes, that's what it's based on. I think they stole it from that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's talkers, runners, doers, fighters.
Yeah,
or
it's something. It's based on that. Yeah. The initiative cards I actually really like. I really fell in love with those with Dragonbane. Yeah, I mean, because like Dragonbane on its face doesn't feel like a super tactical game to me, but like there's actually a lot of tactics kind of hidden in the initiative cards and how you reorder your player sequencing and having to think about like, do we want this person to go first and leave them and be left open to attack because now they can't dodge, right? So I think there's actually like a lot of tactical depth in that maybe isn't immediately obvious, which is cool because I don't think you always see that in initiative, right? If you're just rolling and adding a number, there's no tactics going on there.
I considered using a deck of cards, like a standard deck of playing cards, and then handing those out to everybody. And then, because we do OSR systems. So then if you have like, say for every plus that you have, you get an additional card.
Yeah.
So if you've got a +2, you get 3 cards. And then the best one is or whatever one you want, right, is your go. And then if you have a negative, you get, 3 cards, but you get the worst, you pick the worst one.
Yeah.
And so I thought about doing it that way. I think that would be interesting. And then it's easy.
I think it's,
like you were saying with calling out, who's on deck and stuff. It's easier to see the card faces sitting in front of everyone than trying to look at the die and then try and add their dexterity, to know who's going. So I just wanted to get those thoughts in. But please continue.
Yeah. I think it's and I don't know if it's all the BRP systems or if it's just some of them, but I know like Call of Cthulhu, you're just using your number, right? So it's like, it's just a straight reward for high dexterity. You just always go first. And then they have like, if you have a readied gun, you get +50, right? Because like, what's faster than pulling the trigger on a readied gun, right? So like that kind of makes sense. I like that a lot. Motherships is like, sort of, it's almost a hole in the rules where they don't really explain how initiative is supposed to work. But the two that sort of people have fallen on is like, one is just simultaneous, which is kind of like everybody just says, okay, everybody says what they're going to do. And then you just roll and all of that stuff happens.
It just happens all at once. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Which is like, it's interesting to see people wrap their brain around that, where it's like, well, I shot the monster and it died. Yeah, it's dying, but it's still like falling forward and gutting you, right? Because it's all happening at the same time. It's sort of like if you think about the Alien or Aliens movies, right? Where like they're taking some of those things out, but they're also getting eviscerated or splattered with acid, and they're dying too, right? It's not like so there's that. Or like I said before, they do the monsters always go first, but if you want to try to go first, then you make a speed check. Mm-hmm. And if you fail it, then you're just going to go last like you were before. But in Mothership, when you fail a check, you pick up a stress. So it's like, do you want to try to, potentially accumulate stress to get to go first. I think that's kind of cool. And then
Yeah,
the side-based stuff, like I've seen some different versions of that, right? Like the one that seems to be really popular now, and I don't know if this came out of Shadow Dark, but it seems like the Shadow Dark games I've played, people like to do this. It's like you all roll your initiative, and then you pick so you see who won, and then you go clockwise or counterclockwise. Basically, have you guys seen that? That seems to be
I've
getting
seen that.
popular lately.
Yeah. And that's interesting because there's a certain meta to that where you want the rogue to sit to the left of the DM.
Yeah,
so
if you want
that-
them to go last. Yeah.
or whatever. Like, so you want, you know what I mean, to where like the person you have the best initiative. So this way, that, more players are going to get to go or what order you want to try and go in. It's interesting to see that with Shadow Dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like at the end of the day, the thing for me is sort of just has the game thought about its initiative system, and does it feel right for like the mood or the vibe or the type of game that it is?
Yeah. Definitely
So
the go at the same time works for like the horror based kind of games, like Mothership or like Alien or, things like that. It definitely works well for that.
Yeah, and
simultaneous action, yeah.
As much as I dislike side-based, I like everybody goes at the same time because again, there's that realism thing. If you're in a scrum, in a melee, everybody is swinging, and if I've got if you got a bunch of guys going at each other with claymores, or whatever, they're all taking a swing. I'm going to finish my swing, and then I might be struck down while I'm finishing my swing, but I did get to go. Yeah, and so I think that's really cool. And again, there's that realism to me. You walk into the dungeon and everybody draws their pistols. Everybody does. So I'm okay with that too. I just don't like the side base. You go, this entire football team's going to go, and now you guys can go. And I just don't like that. So
yeah, I could see that. I mean, the simultaneous thing is cool because you don't, you're never going to lose your turn. Right. Like
everybody gets to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's especially with games that have like conditions, for example, like Pathfinder, where you can get, conditions on you to take away 1, 2, or 3 of your actions, or, I was going to cast a spell and now I'm stupefied, whatever the condition. So now my whole turn is blown up. Right. Like if it's simultaneous, like, obviously the drawback to that is like, well, we're not going to be able to dogpile this monster and take it out before it kills somebody. So there's pros and cons, but like if that is aligned with the type of game that you're playing, then I think it's really cool. So yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, that's why I like that Dragonbane one. It just that system feels like really elegant and right for that game, right? For another game, it might not.
Sure.
For Mothership, it'd be weird. Right. So, I think that's something that we've seen that's kind of cool over time is like game designers thinking about initiative beyond just like, well, we're just going to roll an add a modifier. It's like, what is the right way to sort of track turn order and reward certain attributes that aligns with the type of game that I'm trying to play? And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's
OSG has a cool variant that we played around with recently. Was because we ignored like level and class limits for demi-humans. So if you do that, they give some benefits to the human. And one of them is on initiative. So if you roll initiative, it's, group initiative, and you tie, you have to re-roll normally in OSC. You re-roll, there is no tied initiative. But if that happens, regardless of the outcome, the humans are going to go first on a tie. And then the re-roll. So we had an elf and a dwarf in the party I was in. I was a human. So like there was a bunch of times where I got to go first, even when we lost initiative because of that rule. It was kind of neat, little bone to the humans because they don't get as much.
That's cool. Yeah. I really like the cards. I think I'm going to gravitate towards using cards in the games, and I don't know how it'll go over in, my current campaign. We'll see.
I thought about doing that, taking the Dragonbane initiative system and using it in CNC.
Yeah,
I really like how Dragonbane.
I don't want to pull the exact dragon, but like I think I would use a full deck of playing cards, and then, like I said, give multiple cards to the players based on how high their deck stat is, and then they get the best one. But I do enjoy that, like in Dragonbane, that monsters get multiple cards and get to act multiple times. And I
Yeah.
like that idea. Like,
based on their ferocity.
we just had a dragon encounter, and I think it'd be cool to like split up, their attacks, to say, okay, on this number, this is, they get two numbers,
Yeah.
and then you say, okay, this is where they're going to do, the claw attack, and on this number, the wing
Right.
attack or whatever, things
Yeah,
like that. I
that
think
is cool
that'd
the
be
way that works.
cool.
I love that, by the way. I think that's one of the coolest things that like, again, I know Dragonbane does it. I'm sure other games do it too, but that's
Yeah.
the one that jumps out to me, right? Where it's like this monster has a ferocity of 3, so it gets 3 cards.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's like
crazy,
just
yeah.
and it makes sense, right? Like if you're fighting one big enemy, like allowing it
Yeah.
to go multiple times, like feels right to me. Like it's cool. It
Right.
works at the table. It feels cinematic. Like it's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I wish more games would do that.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I think I'm gonna try and integrate it into mine. Have you guys heard of Popcorn Initiative? I think we've talked about it before.
You told me about this, and I was like, ugh.
It's I liked it. I found it in a superhero game. I think it was in the Sentinels superhero game. But what it is you basically, whoever like acts first like gets to go, right? But then they get to pass the initiative to someone else. So they get to pick who goes next. And then that person gets to choose who goes next. And then what happens is when you get so like they could say when they want the monsters to go or the bad guys to go. The bad guys usually in groups, right? You'll have like the general bad guys, and then you'll have like the head bad guy or whatever, and so what happens is you get to bounce around, but like it forces the players to not all go at once, because if they all go at once and then let the monsters go, then the monsters go, and then they say, okay, then the boss monster is going to go, and then the next round starts, and then they let the monsters go, and then the boss monster goes. So you'll have like a big, enemy turn like all at once. So the players kind of have to decide like, okay, I'll go, and then you go, and then we'll let the monsters go, and then, and then we'll finish our turn. It's kind of interesting, but you don't have that on deck, feeling. And so I think that causes some issues when somebody's like, hey, it's your turn now. And then somebody's like, oh, geez, I'm going to go now. Like, they're shocked by it, so.
That going back to the ferocity thing, I like it in Dragonbane. It's part of the Dragonbane system, so it's balanced for Dragonbane. I feel like if you took that and you threw it into CNC, it would greatly unbalance the monster encounter. Hill giants are hard enough. They throw rocks for 3d8 or whatever the damage is. They can throw 450 feet. Well, now instead of lobbing 1 boulder, well, he's extra fierce, so now he's throwing 5 boulders. I don't want to play this. I'm not.
Right.
I don't play because I want my character to be massacred by this thing. I expect a fight. My character died 2 weeks ago. That was a sad day. He was resurrected. Long story, doesn't matter. But I feel like if you take a ferocity thing that was built into a system that is specifically designed to absorb it, and you put it over to a system that never had anything, no intention of anything like that ever being in the system, it would just, it would really destroy the system in favor of
and what I'm suggesting is not that. What I'm suggesting is like not using it for those monsters that only get 1 attack, but for like when you guys fought the Baylor, he gets a sword attack and he gets the whip attack.
Yeah.
So I would give him 2 initiative cards. The first one
Split
would
them
be
up.
for his sword. The second one would be for his whip.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
That would be
Yeah.
cool. Sometimes the whip's going first. Sometimes the sword's going first. That is cool. It's just
like I wouldn't suggest like, oh yeah, he's going to get all of his attacks twice a turn,
Multiple
like,
times.
that-
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
No,
That's kind of where my head was at too, right? Like a lot of boss kind of encounters, like they get to do multiple things, and it'd be kind of cool if those things were split up, right? And I mean, even as like a DM, like running a game, like being able to interact like more often with the players throughout a combat round is kind of fun,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If that's what you're thinking, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
It adds a certain randomness to what the enemy is going to be doing.
No, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this dragon's gonna get all of her attacks Three
Four
times,
claws, bite, tail, 2 wings, times 3. Oh,
Yeah, Roger's really not into balancing
Right.
encounters.
He did warn us.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, speed factor. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true. That's true. Speed factor does kind of do that. To figure out the timing of when things happen and stuff. But
Again,
but no, I
I'm a
think that'd
fan,
be
man.
cool.
I like weapon speed. I like
Yeah.
casting times. I like
I
that
just
sort of thing. Yeah.
there's so many things that you can add. Like I really like those charts and things like that. But it just there's some players that aren't into it and that they're gonna have to look it up and it's gonna have to be explained every time. And I really want the combat round,
Yes.
all the way around the table to happen a minute,
Yeah.
or less.
You have seen my
And-
reaction when the combat round gets interrupted midway. I
Yeah.
can't handle it. There's some psychosis living that worm in my brain. I will snap like that. You get the hell out of the
And
way.
so
We need to finish this.
So I think, some of that stuff is, needs to go quick. One last thing on initiative, and I know with the cards, like it's something you kind of have to do. Well, I guess not, but re-roll every round,
Yeah, I'm fine with
or just keep the same initiative and just keep
Every
going
round.
in a loop.
it. Yeah.
Every round.
I like doing it every
That's
round
what I'm
because that way the guy that rolled a 1 last time he might roll a 10.
Yeah.
So he's going to just speed it up a little bit. It adds some randomness to it. I'm fine with it. But if it's roll once at the beginning and we just keep going through, I'm fine with that
Yeah.
too. It's all,
Matt, what do you
it's all
think?
good.
Roll every round or?
I mean, I've seen more of, like we talked about the turn-based, you roll every round. I mean, I think with the right group rolling it every time, like if I'm playing with you guys, that'd be a different story, right? I think you got to read the room. I think I think some tables you'd be spending an hour of your 3 hours just doing initiative if that's what you did. So yeah, I mean, as long as you're with the right group, I think that's pretty cool. Again, like giving the high dex characters a more initiative rolls, right, is going to like give them the benefit of that curve versus like if you're only rolling 3 initiatives in a session and you happen to roll bad on 2 of them, it's like, why did I even invest in this, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I do think that's pretty cool, but yeah, it would have to be with the right group, I think.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say too, like the whole thing with weapon speed and things like that, I think like that got sacrificed on the altar of feats and skill checks and like the complexity of systems kind of moved in a different direction, right? Where you're going like in a combat now, I have this bonus action and this feat lets me redo this and I have this thing, right? So it's like it feels like adding some of that stuff on top of it makes combat a mess. So it's like systems have sort of jettisoned like hit locations and weapon speed in exchange for these other things. And I'm not sure that that's right or wrong. Like I think with the right system, weapon speed and hit locations, those things feel crunchy, but like I think they're pretty cool as long as you don't also have this whole other layer of like doing all these other things on top of it, right? So it's sort of like a pick your poison thing. I'd like to see more games kind of use those things. I guess like Warhammer still uses a lot of that stuff, right? It's certain systems still use it, but yeah.
Yeah, Hero System. I'm vaguely familiar and this, and I don't remember exactly how it worked, but yeah, it's 12 segment, and then everything's broken up based on speed factors. So you might go, multiple times around. So you'll go on like whatever 1, 3, and 6 or whatever the thing is. But yes, you get to go multiple times. That's interesting. But again, I think in like a D&D or D20 type of game, it gets that gets ridiculous if you get to do multiple actions or a turn.
One of my favorite initiative systems was the early versions of Shadowrun. I've played all the way up through 5, 6 kind of sucks, so I didn't play. At least I thought it did. Anyway, and in Shadowrun, you roll a number of d6s based on what your stats or your cyber, whatever you're wearing, and by a factor of 10. Like, so if you roll a 22, you got to go on 22, 12, and 2. So every 10, you get another action. And and I always really liked that. One of Shadowrun's rules is the exploding die. If you roll a 6, you roll it again. If you roll a 6, you just keep on going. I was playing a Street Samurai with, I think, level 2 wired reflexes. It might have been level 3. He had a super high dexterity. And so I'm rolling like a handful of D6s, and I rolled a boatload of 6s. I ended up going on 72. So, yeah.
Wow.
So I went 7 times, and the next guy went on like a 5. So I went 6 times, and he finally got to go, and then I got to go again. But because of that, it was like, I just destroyed everything in the room. And the other guy, because there's only 2 of us playing with the DM. The guy looks at me and goes, "I go make some coffee." And it was hilarious, the way it was so deadpan. So it made that whole nonsense really funny. But after that encounter, the DM was like, "We need to talk about initiative." So we made it so that the exploding die rule did not apply to initiative. So you roll your straight initiative, you add up all your dice, and you're good to go. And after that, it worked great. I really like that system.
I could see that. I could see that being a huge problem if we tried that in CNC.
Absolutely, yeah. What the exploding die?
With the initiative that, where
now
like
you have
get
to
go
add
multiple
dice.
times.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
terrible.
No.
Again, not meant for that system. Don't use it for that system.
Yeah,
Use it
right,
in Shadowrun.
right.
That's what
Yeah,
it's designed
definitely.
for.
Sure. So before we move on to attack roll, any other thoughts on initiative? I think we pretty much covered everything. We beat that horse to death, I think, right? So attack rolls, attack to hit, that's the next step, right? Usually. Do we need them? I mean, I guess they got to be there, right? There's a couple systems out there where you skip it entirely and you just roll effect. You just roll your damage, and that's it. You automatically hit.
The only system that I like where you don't roll attack rolls is Dragonbane. And that's not with all the monsters, but like the true monsters in Dragonbane, I don't have to roll to hit. They just roll for effect.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
They roll on the chart. They roll on the charts. Cool.
As a player, I want to roll to it. I want to roll to hit. Like I want to be involved. Me as a game master, I like the Dragonbane because I roll like crap. So like I just take that away from me and I can just automatically hit people. It's great. I heard that, and I've never played it, but I've heard Symbaroum, the game master, doesn't make any rolls. It's all player face.
That's a free free league's a big fan of that. I mean, like Morkborg, the monsters don't roll to hit, you just roll to block.
I bought Symbaroum, but I haven't played it.
Man, it took me a long time to catch on, like to fully absorb the Morkborg system. I was running Pirate Borg, and the players went first, and then it was my turn, the monster's turn, and I was like, how do I hit you? And I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I do? Like I had to stop. I felt terrible about it. I had to stop the game. I've got to look it up, guys. I'm really sorry. And none of the players knew either. We were all like, what do we do? Because we're thinking D20. And I was like, oh, you just roll your defense. That's what you do. And and I'm okay with that. I play mostly fighter types, melee types. I'm not a big spellcaster guy, although I can. So the roll to hit that's my character's action. That's what I'm doing. And so there are games that, like Roger had said, I have to tell the story because it won't leave me alone if I don't. Roger and I go to PAX every year, and down in the basement of PAX is the games on demand area. I think that's what it's called. And it's like 20 losers sitting outside this room waiting to play the worst games that have ever been created. They are awful. And yes, I know what I said. So if any of you guys in the chat are one of those 20 losers, I'm not sorry. But I'm kidding. I had to watch what I say. I'm sorry. But so many of those games, it's like they're written for people who play soccer without keeping score. And no, we're not gonna roll an attack roll. You're just gonna tell me what happened. Well, okay, I killed a monster. Game's over. What are we doing? I don't get this. And maybe that's a me problem. I don't know, but I need my attack rolls. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not really playing the game. Anyway, somebody should probably go next because I'm really digging that hole.
Well,
yeah.
No,
Matt, take it from there, man. See if you can pick up and,
I
and save
gotta,
this,
I gotta
during
clean
the
that up
show.
somehow. So
Try not to
okay.
call 20 people losers in the process.
It's
Yeah.
none of these guys. You've seen them?
Yeah, no,
I know.
well, so okay, there's definitely so Into the Odd is the system that jumps out to me, which
Yeah.
doesn't that you auto hit, right? So there's no, and so you think about like what is the point of that? To some degree, the point is like to disincentivize combat. Like combat is going to be
Right.
deadly because people don't miss. And I know like Frontier Scum kind of is like a blend of Morkborg and Into the Odd, where like a lot of attacks auto hit. Like it's like Western Morkborg. But if you have a clean shot, like you don't miss. Now it has this hat mechanic where you can say, well, I lose my hat to prevent the damage,
love
which
it.
is kind of
I
fun.
love,
Yeah.
I love
so,
the hat mechanic.
Yeah.
But there's this idea like with Draw Steel, the old MCDM, now it's Draw Steel, where that was one of their big things. Like, well, not hitting sucks. Like, I hate when my turn feels like a waste. So we're just gonna roll, like you're gonna hit, and then we're gonna see like how much damage you. And it's like, okay, but like if I roll a 1 and I deal 1 damage, like it still feels crappy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with to hit rolls. I think in some games, like Mothership, for instance, combat is really hard sometimes, and like you almost want to like. Sometimes I find myself wanting to do fail forward with that combat, where it's like, all right, like if you miss, we're still going to roll damage, but I'm going to say you're out of ammo, right? Or like there's something else that's going to
okay.
happen, just so that because otherwise, when your to hit rolls in a game are like 32%, 36%, like it makes everybody feel really inept,
Mhm.
and then the combat kind of just drags on.
It's a
So
slog,
you know that's yeah. So I mean, I think there needs to be some mitigation there sometimes for those kinds of games. But yeah, I think like if you're going to have auto hit, it better be a very specific game for a very specific purpose. Otherwise, it does feel kind of strange to me, right? That you're just hand waving that mechanic away. And I think I saw in the comments, you know, like the whole idea of fumbles and crits, like there's an excitement to that that's just not there, you know, when you're just automatically hitting.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, I enjoy the to hit system. I don't like systems that, you know, that auto hit, you know, for the most part. You know, there's very few times where I'd actually want that. And you know, the I want to touch on the Morkborg thing. The defense rolling, I kind of like that. Because that also gives players to do when the GM like would normally be rolling, because then
Yeah.
everybody kind of phases out when it's like, okay, the GM, he's like attacking somebody's, just let him roll the thing or whatever. But like when the players on the other side of it got to roll the defense roll, it,
Yeah.
you know, the rest of the players are more involved.
You're not just the player's not just waiting for his next turn. You're active throughout the entire combat. You know, and you know, I talked about Morkborg earlier. I really do like that system. I just completely forgot about it. It was so foreign to me that I was like,
Yeah. I've played it a few times with people running Morkborg, and more than once, like the DM has made that same thing. We've gotten into combat, and they're like, "Wait, what's my to hit?" And it's like there is one. Yeah, like we're just blocking. Yeah, it's definitely not just you. That's it's because it's a muscle memory thing. It's just like when you're playing a D20 game with modifiers, you just sort of expect that to be there.
40 years of rolling a D20 and modifying it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. And you know, having said that though, I do the Dragonbane thing, and I do give Dragonbane a little bit of crap, you know, for reasons.
You're
And
wrong.
I'm sure Matt will also get on my case about that too. But the monsters, the monsters in Dragonbane, I think it's cool because, you know, that they don't have to roll to hit. They just roll on the chart, you know, to see what happens.
Yep.
And it's interesting because like from the GM perspective, like I don't have to pick like what's going to happen. Like I don't have to pick like,
Random.
okay, I it's the dragon's turn. I got to figure out who I'm gonna breathe on and probably kill because I'm gonna do 20d6 damage, right? Like where in Dragonbane, it'll say, oh, the dragon hit, the closest person or the person with the most health or whatever. And it's like already chosen. It's like, guys, I'm not in control of this vehicle. I'm not driving. It's a Tesla.
I didn't
don't
do
know. Yeah, I
It was
didn't
on
do it.
autopilot.
Yeah, it's on autopilot. I don't know what happened. He breathed fire on that guy because he did. I don't so it kind of gives that, so I think it makes it easier to play some of the more
Oh yeah.
the bigger, badder, enemies where, and the GM is like invested too because they don't know what's going to happen. They're like, who are we gonna, what's going to happen? Like, I don't know. Is the grizzly bear going to go nuts and rend somebody, apart, or is he going to, jump on somebody else, or whatever? You don't know what's going to happen. So it's kind of neat. I like that part of the not having to roll to hit roll or something with Dragonbane. I guess in certain systems it works really well.
I think it works perfect.
Yeah, I mean,
for Dragonbane.
yeah, it's interesting. And I know you have this maybe as the next topic, and I don't want to jump ahead, but like you think about monsters, right? And like one of the things that I've sort of come around to this thought process, I've heard elsewhere, like the idea that and this works best at lower levels, I guess, but like one of the things that you find in OSR games and low level play across the board with D20 fantasy systems is like they tend to feel almost like horror games at low level.
Yes.
Right. And I think as a DM, like you can amp that up if your monsters are not acting randomly. Like there's a school of thought that like, okay, if I have 3 skeletons or whatever, let me roll. There's 3 people. We're all engaged in combat. Let me see who they attack. Meanwhile, the players are like, dogpiling targets. They're selectively choosing like with tactics. So this whole idea of the monsters know what they're doing, right, is like, well, if they're mindless skeletons, maybe they're just fumbling about. But like as a DM, like, do you want to engage tactically and have your monsters also focus fire? Like if they know this guy's gonna like, hey, this guy's reading out of a spell book. He's about to do something serious. Like, let's kill it, right? Or take the healer out, right? Some groups like recoil in horror if that's how you play your monsters, and others are into it, right? It's like it makes it feel more like, to me, like almost like a horror game where the monsters are not just stumbling about with like random AI. They're like actively engaged in trying to kill us just like we're trying to kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but like, so Dragonbane kind of takes that away from you a little bit, right? So it's that mirth and mayhem thing. It's like it almost doesn't want you to be like, I'm going to have this dragon just maul the wizard because of course I would do that, right? So I don't know what your guys are on that.
I mean, you can still do that in Dragonbane. It's just that whatever it does to that wizard, say the wizard gets a spell off and attracts attention to himself, which I always love when they do that. That dragon be like, oh, okay. And then just go over there and, he gets his 8 different options and you just roll on one of them. And he's like, oh, that one's fire breath. And he aims it at the wizard, or it's a tail or whatever. I don't know what their attacks are, but I love doing that. And I've been guilty in the past of not doing that, like playing smart monsters smartly. And CNC kind of changed that. And I know just an example, like they were moving up this mountain, getting attacked by frost giants, and they're throwing their rocks, and the wizard got off. He's like, oh, it's a frost giant. It's not going to like fireball, so he hits him with fireball, and they were like, "Yep, we didn't like that." And then all the rocks
have some rocks,
right,
and they're like, "Oh," and then same thing. They're out in the wilderness. They come across like hobgoblin scouts, and these they're not first level. These are advanced characters, and they're fighting advanced monsters. And the wizard, they set up an ambush, and then as soon as the wizard starts firing spells off, the hobgoblins are like, nope, that guy, and they just started focus firing on the wizard. Because he's at a point, he's 7th level, so he can lay out a significant amount of damage.
Yeah.
So they were like, no, we're not going to put up with that. So they just focus on him. So I like playing him that way. I don't know if my players like it that much, but I greatly enjoy it.
Our wizard has been very careful about sticking his head out.
Yep.
You know,
And that was,
because-
man, that
Smart.
lesson was hard learned by Andrew.
Yeah.
I play
that
a
happened when
cleric.
I hit him in the face with a rock.
Yep. Yeah, I play a cleric with Paladin Envy. He's wearing full plate. He wants to be a paladin. He's always right up front. And I have had to tell Andrew time and time again, stay behind me. Use me for cover. Stay behind me. Great, you want initiative. Wait until the fighter moves up to engage. Because if you just start launching your nukes, you're the next target, man. And it took him a while to learn, but what Roger just said, that actually happened. He launched I think it was a fireball or his magic missile. He got the initiative first. He hit the giant. The giant was like squash.
Yeah. And it was funny
he
because
drilled
they were
him.
they were all behind a wall, right, coming around like
It was
like a mountain area.
it was the mountain giants or
Yeah,
whatever they were. Yeah,
stone giants.
stone
then
giants.
Yes. He comes around the corner, like launches his fireball like a badass, and then there's like 4 of them there, and he's standing there by himself. And there's, everybody else is 30 feet to his left, hiding behind, a stone wall.
And here's me.
He's just there, and
Yeah.
they just chuck rocks at him. It was so terrible. It was bad. It was hilarious.
But
But-
going back to intelligent monsters, actually something Dakota you just said about how do your players feel about it. I rarely DM anymore. I mean, like I try not to. I am a player. I don't really have any desire to be a DM anymore. I like it when the monsters fight like their lives matter. I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. I don't remember what it was, but whatever monster we were fighting did something, and I glared at Roger, and he was like, "What?" And I said, "No, I that's exactly what I would do. You're playing it the right way. I'm just, God, I wish this weren't happening to me over and over and over because I was getting the crap kicked out of me." So yeah, I really want it. Again, it goes back to that feeling of accomplishment, the challenge of victory. If the monsters just stand there and act like mindless automatons, if they all act like skeletons, they might as well just be skeletons. And then there's just no fun in that. I really like that. So yeah, props. And Roger does it all the time. It's great. He's a very good DM. Remember I said that next week, will you please? Thank you.
I will. I'm gonna clip that. I'm gonna clip that section. So I put it in one of those easy buttons.
There you go. Wonderful.
How do you guys feel about critical hits and failures? Because my group voted them off.
We use
because
them.
we were first level, and so we don't use them at all. We just do 1 is an automatic miss, 20 is an automatic hit. That's and we don't have no double damage, no cool charts.
Yeah, we use one of the options from the Castle Keeper's Guide. I don't remember what number it is. And my guys like them. When I first started running CNC, because I was, coming from 5e where you're nigh invincible. So I knew CNC wasn't going to be that way. I did a rule that I heard on a podcast that I listened to. It was a Pathfinder 1E podcast, and the rule they had was that only named characters, like a named adversary, like this is the boss of the goblins, he's the only one that could actually score a critical hit. I did that for a while, and then I completely just went away from it, and now shit happens. So, but it happens to my monsters quite a bit too, and the players like it because we do the version we use is you roll, you get your 20 or a 1. And then you roll again to determine your fate. And we have a chart, and it's up on I have it on my screen, but they also have it up on their side so they can see it too. And they're like, oh, that's times 4 damage, which is always a big one. That's happened maybe half a dozen times in the game. But
that's cool.
Yeah, we like them. We've always used them.
I liked it, but we played Basic Fantasy for a while, and the characters were very squishy, and a lot of characters died, and the players didn't like that. So when I gave them the option of using crits or not, they were like, no crits, because they didn't want the monsters to get them. So
Yeah, I mean, if
And-
that's the
and
group's,
I'm not a fan.
vibe, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think.
And I'm not a
My
fan
group
of
just likes them.
like Dragon Slayer. Only players can get crits, and I'm not down with that.
And what now?
But,
I missed that.
Yeah,
In
Dragon
Slayer.
Slayer players get crits.
Yeah, if
Monsters
if
can't get crits in
Monsters
Dragon
can't
Slayer?
crit.
if I were running Dragon
What?
Slayer, I would use Staccato's rule that he's talked about. Edgar the Black, the Dark Knight is going to be able to crit just like
Yeah,
a player. 'Cause
right.
he's a main NPC. I would do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad way to do it. I just ended up
No, yeah.
because I, have a caveman brain, so the less stuff I have to keep track of in the game, the better. So it's like
I would just start
they get
naming
the
all my
feed on a little
goblins.
bit. Yeah, everybody. This is Bob the Goblin, and he gets to stab you with his rusty spear and score a critical hit.
This is Larry the Goblin. This is his cousin Daryl and his
That's-
other cousin Daryl. Everybody.
I
knows
mean
Larry.
that's the ongoing joke with Glass Cannon because they do like fan
That's
crits
where
and
I got it
fumbles
from.
with
Right.
but it's only for named characters. So like Troy will try to weasel that all the time. No, this guy's
Yeah.
Seth Word,
Give
the
everybody a
Goblin.
name.
He's it's right here in the book. He's got a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that rule. I don't think I just said I was so used to always doing crits. That's what we kind of just fell back into. And I don't know if I've killed a character. I don't know if I've killed a character with a crit or not. I might have. I've killed a few.
So yeah, some things I jotted down thinking about crits. Play a lot of DCC. Right. So one of the
Yes.
things I like that DCC does is like, expanding the range where you crit, right? Like when you're a fighter, for instance, right? So how do you make the fighter feel more powerful so they get more attacks, faster?
Yeah.
And then their crit table is bigger and happens more often.
I
right?
love
so
crit tables. I love crit tables.
Yeah. So that's fun. I think that's kind of fun.
I think Hyperborea does
Call-
something similar to that too.
Hyperborea
there's
has
definitely
the-
other games do that too.
Hyperborea has the table where you roll a D6 when you get a crit, and like if it's a 1 or a 2, it's like +1 or +2 damage. If it's a 3, it's like ×2, and then or something, and it goes up from there.
They have a different thing for fumbles though. It's based on your class, so you can have like
Yeah.
DCC does that
degrees
too.
of crappy fumbles, But if
Yeah,
you're a
DCC
fighter,
does that too. You get a
the
bigger
chance of getting
die
a really bad
And
one's
armor
less.
will change your table.
armor.
too.
Yeah.
So
I
well,
love the DCC crit tables. I especially love the kind of monster specific ones. They got the dragon one and they got the giant one, and they're just awesome. I think.
It's fun, yeah. Call of Cthulhu does that degrees of success, right? Which is kind of weird during combat. So you can get, hard or extreme success, and then you can get like extra damage. It gets a little weird if you're using luck and you let players use that in combat because they'll like expend luck. I've seen that happen more than once where it's like, the showdown against this, if the end boss, and it's like, I'm just going to drop my 40 luck and make this an extreme success and shoot him through the head for 17 damage. Oh, he's dead. Like that kind of has always irked me about that. And then Delta Green and Mothership do the doubles. Over and under doubles, which I always think is kind of fun, right? So like if your target number is 45 and you hit 11, 22, 33, or 44, it's a crit. And if it's over 55, 66, etc., it's a fumble. Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, and I like that because
I like them.
The better your skill is, the more chance you have to crit. It's not
exactly,
much, but
it's it adds up though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fun. I like that. I mean, I generally like crits and fumbles. I think they make the game fun. I mean, I think to your point, like low level some fantasy games, especially the ones that do, like you die if you take double, you're hit by something like that. That comes up at level 1 and just wipe. It's again, it's like, are your players okay with that? Do they know that that's the kind of game you're running or not? If nobody wants that and you just house rule it out at the low levels, like great. Right. And if people are like, no, I want it to be a meat grinder. These guys are somewhere they're not supposed to be. And if they die, then that's fine too. But I do like, I think it might be Vaults of Varn maybe that doesn't have like nat 20s don't do anything.
Right.
And it does have fumbles. Right. And so it's like, it's weird to play a D20 game and people, oh, I rolled a 20, and you're like, yeah, so you hit, and it's like, what? So I think it's almost like a muscle memory thing. Like people want to
Yeah.
celebrate getting those things. It makes the game fun.
Right.
So
Um,
it sucks when you're like rolling ones over and over again, right? And your buddy's rolling 20s all over the place, but it's fun. I think it's just part of the game.
Shellback says he adds an extra point of damage every 3 points over the AC an attack roll goes. I had considered doing something like that when I was working on building a game and doing it like every 5 points over the AC, you would get like another damage die with it. And I wasn't doing like multi attacks and stuff like that, but that was something I.
What do you think about? Yeah, what do you think about like how Pathfinder 2e does it, where it's like if you're 10 over the target, it's a crit, and then if you're 10 below, it's a fumble, right? So you have crits and fumbles that are not just nat ones.
Yeah,
or nat
I don't
20s.
know. I haven't really played that, or tried it like at the table. I've seen it and I've kind of just breezed past it. I don't think it's terrible. It's kind of a neat idea because then like when the players are higher level, they're going to crit more on, the lower level bad guys. But but at that point, it doesn't mean anything because they're going to kill like an orc anyway. If an orc's got 5 hit points, like, you know what I mean? Like they don't need the crit at that point, I think. I don't know.
I think it's like part of how they balance difficulty with like single enemies against a party, right? Is so like and again, that game is all designed to be very balanced in the math, but it's like if you're going to try to intimidate my one boss, like he's going to have a way better bonus.
Yeah.
And so they'll add, so like, okay, you didn't critically succeed, so I get some small benefit, right? And the opposite is true too. If he's like using a spell against the players, like they're more likely to critically fail and get crushed by that attack, which is what you want to happen if you're fighting a boss.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So I get what they're doing. It sort of smooths out that stuff.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't help the whole thing of like, it's just so much math all over the place constantly all the time.
Right.
So,
I mean, I can appreciate them using +10, -10 because that like is easy for a GM to do. It's okay. His AC's, 24, so 34 is a crit. Like you can, adding 10 is easy. So I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on that. I mean, I enjoy just, natural 20 like does it, I think is fine. And I think that takes away from that. If you're doing the +10 thing on a boss, not necessarily, but if he's got a really high AC, so I don't know. And then it's a feel bad 20 roll, I don't know. I mean, that's my opinion. Maybe I should try that sometime. And
so they do. So like the 20 will always be, the nat 20 will always be a crit.
Oh,
and
nat
then you
20
can also
is always a
crit.
crit.
Yeah,
okay.
Nat 20 is always a crit. Nat 1's always a fumble. But you can also crit if you exceed by 10, and you can also fumble if you can critically fail if you are more than 10 below.
Well, that's interesting. I'll have to try that. We'll have to try that at some point at a con game or a one shot or something, and see how it works.
Yeah, it's like one of the things about that system that I think kind of stands out. It's like because I don't know of any others. There maybe there's a million other games, so they may have gotten it from somewhere. Yeah. But of all the big games, like it's the only one that I know that has that.
It's hard to like find something new in a system because there's so many out there. There's so many things out there that people have done. It's crazy. So on the other side of the to hit roll, we have armor class.
I didn't even get to say anything about crits.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm
Go ahead. What, crits.
Start your timer, Roger.
How do you feel about crits? Yeah.
Mixed feelings. I don't like a 1 as a fumble, a 20 as a crit, because it's just 5% one way or the other. I like doing the confirmation rolls. You roll a 20, you possibly roll a crit, roll to hit again. If you hit, it is a crit. If you miss, it's just a regular hit. Same with the fumble. Um,
That was third
I-
edition, right?
I
Yeah,
believe it
third
was.
edition did it.
Yes, I think it was.
Yeah, third edition and Pathfinder first
Yeah.
edition did that too.
And you know, and I liked it. You know, and I'm a big fan of 3.5 and Pathfinder up until about the 50% mark. Anyway, the charts, I try to stay away from them. I don't like that the charts the fumble charts almost always seem to be like this over the top slapstick attempt at comedy. Oh, you fumble, you stab your friend for 20 points of damage. Okay, you know, that's ridiculous. It's bad enough that I've missed and my fighter has humiliated himself, but now I've somehow have stabbed the nearest guy to me and killed him. Oh, sorry, Bob, I was aiming for the orc over here. And so I don't like that. When I was playing second edition, I was DMing for my group, and my mom, I was in Desert Storm. My mom sent all my D&D stuff to me, and I had a D30 tables from Flying Buffalo, and they were great. They were a lot of fun, and they had separate tables for like blunt crits, edge crits, piercing, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I had my 30-sided die, which I still have, and I showed everybody these tables, and of course, the players always think about, oh, I can crit the monster. They never think about the monster's going to crit me. And I told them straight up, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. If you guys want to use the crit tables, we will use these crit tables, but it might sting you later on. Man, the next day we were running, the guys were fighting some hill giants, and the fighter ran up. The guy's name was Tenny. The player's name was Tenny. He ran up full hit points. They had not fought anything yet. He runs over, takes a swing at the giant. The giant misses. Giant rolls a natural 20. And so I dropped my 30-sided die where everybody can see it, rolled a 30, impact with decapitation. Instantly killed a 7th level fighter with full hit points just because that's what came up on the die. And that's not right to me. You know, and at the time, also I was 20, 21. So, you know, everybody's laughing. Aha, poor Tenny got whacked. But that was a 5th level. He had no fair chance to defend himself. And so I try to stay away from that. So I like crits doing double damage, plain old double damage. And I like my fumbles being, you missed, maybe penalize it. You lose an attack next round. You know, you're trying to recover. And so I like that sort of thing. But I don't like arbitrary tables that say, you know, you cut your own arm off or some silly nonsense like that.
We used back when we were playing. Actually, I think we used it all the way up into 3rd edition. But back in AD&D, there was an article in Dragon Magazine called "Good Hits and Bad Misses," and we used to use that, and it was brutal.
I remember that article.
Yeah, we used to, we had characters that killed himself with a fumble. We had characters, you know, that lost arms. They got hit in the head and lost like 1d4 worth points of intelligence. I wouldn't use those now. Like the CNC one I have is basically, it's like you roll, you get your critical, you roll again another d20, and then there's different options. And like some of them, like the first one, if you roll low, it's not a crit, it's just a normal hit, or you get a d4 extra damage, or and then it starts to go up. It's like ×2, ×3, ×4, or whatever. But it's not, I mean, it can be punishing, no joke, but there's none of that in the fumble table. Like you can hit your friend, but it's never for, you know, a ton of, it's
ludicrous amounts of damage. Yeah.
You can hit yourself, you can break your weapon, or you lose your turn.
I like it when like you just said, like lose your table. Like if I smack my ally, he loses his turn because, you know, he's been surprised by, I've been blindsided. So that would be okay with me, but it's just killing other characters or whatever.
Those other ones, and there's the CNC one that's pretty brutal too. Like I think it's the one before the one I use, and it's like that. Like you're taking limbs off, and you know, it was like I played against the Dark Master at ShireCon. I never played that before, and that has some crazy tables. I'm not into games that are that crunchy, but like you could do a lot of horrific damage. But you could also, as Jason said, you could be on the receiving end of that horrific damage too. So it's a two-way range in that regard. So
It's definitely a two-way street there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so on to armor class.
Yes,
We
remarks
good? Yeah,
complete.
sorry
Carry
about
on.
that. I
That's
didn't mean to
fine,
skip you,
man.
obviously.
It's fine.
So Shellback, I'm with you here.
Yep,
Armor
I am
bonus
too.
should be damage reduction instead of added to the armor. I am with you. I just think that causes some issues at the table where, like, I get why it's armor class, right? It's part of dex and part of armor, and it's all rolled in. So you're making one roll to see if you hit or not, and then you're gonna roll damage and figure that out, and that's it. Instead of having to roll it to hit roll, do math, see if I hit, and then roll damage, and then do more math to see what what the damage dealt was. But I do like damage reduction. I like the way they did it in the American Survival Guide there. I don't know, Matt, if you ever played that.
It's on my
the-
shelf of shame over here.
Yeah.
I haven't cracked it open even.
So I ran a post-apocalyptic game using that because I like that over MCC, and it's the armor is in parts. So every piece of armor that you have, you go up a die step.
Okay.
It's that much a damage reduction. So you start obviously like one piece of armor is D3 damage reduction, two pieces is a D4, three pieces is a D5, four pieces is a D6. So and some things could be like 2 levels a piece or whatever. And then you would roll that die, and that's your damage reduction.
Mhm.
And then if you rolled a one piece of armor got destroyed. So it would drop down, a piece, and that thing would get, destroyed or damaged or whatever. So it would keep decreasing as you're using it. And I really like that system, especially in the post-apocalyptic vibe, because it was like piecemeal. So you can have like, a motorcycle helmet and hockey pads and like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool for that. But generally, I don't know. And Dragonbane does the damage reduction thing. And
I like
that's
that.
fine. It works. The duck is like impossible to damage. In that game, the pre-gen has like
Yeah.
armor of 6, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the ways. Yeah, it's and I think you guys talked about this last week actually. It's like one of the ways that the kind of more boss type of monsters will be hard to fight. It's because they'll have some crazy damage reduction.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And there's specific combat options you can do to mitigate that, and you can crit and you can do different things. But yeah, like it's interesting when you're fighting like so like a giant worm or so whatever. It's like, well, it's got these thick scales, right? And it's just like you're hitting it, you're just not hurting it, right? And like
Yeah.
you see that happen in different like forms of media, books and movies and stuff. Like like the Guardians of the Galaxy is the one I always think of, where he's like, he's got to go inside because it's going to be his skin will be thinner on the inside or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that. Yeah. It's but like there's a Dragonbane module that I think I'm running at Page actually, where like that's kind of one of the monster's features is like it can swallow you, but like while you're inside it, you're taking damage, but it's vulnerable to being attacked, like when you're in, right? So it's I think that's kind of cool.
I really
do
like
that.
how there isn't much or anything actually I don't like about Dragonbane, other than I don't get to play it more often than I already do. I really like how they do that armor in Dragonbane, and it's balanced. Like you can have guys that are tanks. Like the last adventure I ran, we had one character that he tanked up, but he also gets a bane on a bunch of
On almost
sometimes
everything.
critical rolls.
Yep.
Sneaking around, or there's a couple other things. So I think it balances very well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the way damage is doled out in Dragonbane, everything does a lot of damage, and you don't have a lot of
Mhm.
hit points, which is great. So I think it's balanced very well. I really like how they do it. I don't know if I could ever do that with like a more D&D style game. I'm just so ingrained to the way it's always been, I guess, that I'm fine with the way it works in D&D, but if, I think Dragonbanes are probably a better system in that regard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think so from my experience, one of the counterpoints to that where I struggle with it working well is actually Morkborg. As much as I like it, when you have high armor reduction as a PC in Morkborg, um, I just remember I played at a con game and I had whatever the tier 4 or whatever the highest armor is, tier 3. I can't remember. I think it's a D6 or D8
D6, I
damage
think.
reduction. Yeah, and so I was
Yeah,
tanking
'cause I think
this
it's
end boss.
6.
Yeah. I was tanking this end boss and like, they're hitting me for D8 damage and I'm preventing D6 of it every round. And with omens and stuff, it's just like I'm just standing there getting hit by this boss every round and just shrugging off. And I was like getting paralyzed too. So it was just literally just standing there like a statue getting whacked every round. But like I just prevented all this damage. And so like Cyborg implemented the thing where like you always take at least one. And I actually have started doing that in Morkborg because like it kind of makes those combats less grindy when people have armor and you're just like hitting each other for D4 and D6 and then preventing D4 or D6 of the damage to it just makes these combats go on forever even though people have barely any hit points.
Yeah.
Dragonbane, the weapons at least do a lot of damage.
Yeah, they do.
So it kind of skirts around that because you're still hitting pretty hard.
Yeah, like I was
So
the guy in my game, like I dropped him a few times. We played about 8 sessions, I think, of that for that adventure we were on. But a lot of it was just like nickel and diming him, like just chipping, chipping away. I'd do a little bit of damage to him every round, but he was shucking off like 7 damage every attack. So he was able to stay upright for quite a while.
It's interesting. I kind of like. I think there needs to be some sort of like degradation effect if you have like a fixed like armor reduction or something like I was talking about with USG American Survival Guide, where like if you roll 1 on the die, it drops down.
yeah, Morkborg does that too.
And so Morkborg does that. And I don't think Dragonbane does that, does it? It doesn't drop like the effect.
I
don't think so.
Or something
so.
like that. And that was
I
something
think
that I
you
actually liked.
I think you can break shields and weapons. I think if you're parrying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have.
But I don't think you can affect
system. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to. Every like weapons and shields have a rating, and if you do more damage than the rating, it does get
right.
damaged.
But I think that like if someone crits you, in the arm, and you're wearing like the armor should reduce like 1 point or whatever until you can make like a repair roll or rest or something,
Shadowdark
Yeah,
had a rule. I think it was in Curse
find the
Scroll
weakness
3,
attack with a piercing weapon. Okay.
where a shield, like a special type of shield, like you could avoid a crit with it, I think, or maybe even a hit. I don't remember.
That
We had a character
that was something
doing that.
from like a lot of OSR games where you can sacrifice your shield
I don't mind that
to-
rule, honestly. I
to
don't-
negate a thing. No, I don't mind that at all. And then usually with like a magic shield, it won't get destroyed, but it'll end up like so many feet away from you or something like that. But yeah, that is kind of a cool rule. I like that.
I think Mothership just does if you take a single hit where it exceeds your armor's busted. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I like the I know that we mentioned this earlier, but the Frontier Scum
The hat.
the hat rule. I
Yeah.
love the hat rule because it fits so perfectly into like the westerns where you shoot it so you almost shoot him in the head, but his hat goes flying off or whatever instead. And
Yeah,
it's just
it's
awesome.
very thematic or cinematic.
Yeah, right. It fits perfect, I think, in that sort of thing. So yeah, that's interesting. What do you guys, as far as AC goes and armor? What there's Thaco. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are hardcore. Like, no, armor class should be descending, and
I don't. Either way is fine with me.
That's
I mean,
fair.
I always have seen the pros of using Thaco or the charts where you figured it out once, which you had to roll, and then you roll the d20 and you know you need to hit, say, okay, I got to hit a 12 or I need to roll a 12 to hit the guy. Then now you roll a d20 and you got to get a 12 or better.
Yep.
Whereas with the ascending AC, you roll the die and then you have to add some numbers to it. And then, and I know that sounds simple, but there's some players that,
Oh yeah.
they
It's just more steps.
they forget the number that they need to add, and then
Yep.
they need to look and it's, oh, okay, well, my strength bonus is a +2 and I'm level 5, so I've got a +3, and then so it's 3 + 2 + 1 plus this number that.
But that's what character sheets are for.
Yeah, right.
All
right.
those numbers are in a nice little row, and then there's a box at the end.
A
Plus
total.
8. Plus 8.
Is that how you do it?
Usually, yes.
Yeah, but then you still have to add 7 + 8, and
Oh, no.
that's,
Third grade
like every
math.
time.
You've got me. We've talked about this before, man. Because we're both thinking of the same person.
Sure,
Dude,
sure.
I'm sorry, man. If you can't add 8 to whatever you've rolled on a 20-sided die, perhaps Dungeons and Dragons is not for you. I believe they
It's not
still
you,
sell
Matt.
Link
Don't worry.
Box.
Yeah.
When I played Dragon
I-
Slayer, I figured it out all ahead of time. So, like you were saying, Roger, it was super easy. Like I knew like I had a bow and I had a staff or whatever the hell I had, and I had all my numbers, and I just knew, and I just dropped the die, and I didn't have to add anything.
not
I was
hard.
like, nope.
Yep.
Once, because they would either tell us the AC or you'd figure it out after a while.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, no, there's no way I hit it. Or like I hit AC too. I'm like, I'm sure I hit him. And they're like, yep. And it was super simple.
right.
And that's the thing I like about Dragonbane too. I know Roger doesn't like to roll under, but I like it, one, because I roll like crap. And then the way that system is, I drop the die or the player drops a die and they automatically know whether they succeeded or not. And
Yep.
I'm like, good. We don't have to add up anything. We just, we
Yeah.
communicate
The
what
pickup
happened
and
and move
play.
on.
Yeah. The pickup and
Right.
play aspect of that, really can't. I mean, it's just, it's really remarkable how easy it is to get people up and running in that game because of that,
Yep.
which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
strong point of
Yeah.
the game.
No, and Matt, just so you're aware, my only issue with it, with the most of the roll under systems, is that you're rolling under your stat. Like you're only rolling against yourself.
No,
to
I get
see
it.
if you
Yeah.
hit
I
or your
sure.
skill.
Yeah. It's the same difficulty to shoot an arrow into something no matter what size it is. Like I get it.
Yeah.
I
That's my only
understand.
hang-up.
Yeah, I do get it. I mean, it's a trade-off for it's a no. Now I'm sure that's never happened. I've never seen him
Never.
get frustrated
Never.
and literally tear a table to pieces either.
Oh,
Yeah,
you were
I don't know what
there
you're
for
talking
that?
about.
I understand that. I really do. I think it's a valid criticism. It's one of those things where every system's going to have a few of those sticking points, and it's that I totally get that being one for you. It makes sense to me. It's one of those things where it's a game that's sort of designed, like I said, it's very easy to sort of wrap your brain around all the mechanics. It does get there's a little bit more depth to it, I think, than people sort of see at first glance as you get into the different types of things you can do in combat and how you can structure initiative. But yeah, there's a cap to sort of how tactical it is, and that's one of the caps.
Sure.
Right. And I do think that's valid. I'm not going to say that that's wrong. Right. I think the game's fine. Just, despite that, I think it accomplishes what it's trying to do really, really well. But yeah, I mean, I'm old enough to have played with THAC0, right? I will say at this point, I don't really love using it. It feels it's very war game. It really is like
Sure.
a legacy of its war game heritage, right? Like if you've played Warhammer, or you've played these different games, it's going to feel easier to wrap your brain around the structure of like looking at tables like that. Versus
Yeah.
if you've been playing just RPGs or board games the last 20 years, it feels like a weird extra step. Why do I have to do this?
Sure.
So, generally, I would say if you have the option, just use Ascending because it's just easier for people to understand at this point.
No, I agree. I agree. And I mean, some of the math jokes, aside, but I just, that's kind of like my only thing is like when you have to look on a chart, you get the number that you have to roll on the die and not the total. And it it really frustrates the hell out of me when you've got guys that have been playing for, a couple of years or whatever in a game and, they still got to look up, the number that they have to add and it takes them a minute, it's just,
Every
that's
single
all, that's
round.
my thing. That's my hang up, that's all but generally like as a GM, like what I do if I have to make a saving throw or so, I do all my rolls in front of the players. I don't hide anything. But I always will do the math out loud, so everybody knows what's at stake. Like in CNC, say, okay, you're casting this, the save, you're level 8, it's 12, needs a 20, to save. The monster's level 8. I need a 12 or better on the die to succeed. And then I'll roll the die,
And he'll get a 19 every time.
And I'll get a 19 every time. That's just what happens. I can roll 6 D6s and 5 of them will be 6s. That's how I roll with monsters.
Yes, it is. That's how you kill clerics with Paladin Envy very, very quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
That's actually pretty hilarious. That's actually a pretty hilarious comment. Like you're gonna print up custom D20s for that player. Yeah. Just print up a custom, like whatever their modifier is. Just build it right on.
Just look at the number.
Have them in a box.
Yeah.
Have them in a box.
Yeah,
one that's, +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, all the way up to like +10.
That's funny.
That'd be the way to do it.
And this is not meant to bash on 5e because it's really not. I think that video games have done a lot to blunt the average player's ability to do quick math. Everyone has a calculator. Everyone's got a phone. Growing up, I was not allowed to use a calculator when I did math, and it helped. I do math in my head. I'm good to go now. But most kids don't, and now with video games, you don't have to do math. You click the button and your dude hits or he misses. Everything's fine. I don't remember if it was Tinker or Bloodworth they were talking about when 4th edition came out. They wanted the D&D Beyond to be the thing. People were using that. All you had to do was roll a D20 because the number is already sitting there, and that cripples people's ability to think like that. And I talk a lot of smack about people that can't do, roll a D8 or roll D20 and add 8 to it. But it's really just my frustration at seeing that the new systems degrading the ability of players to play. It's not the player that I'm mad at. It's the system that has taught them to do this that annoys me.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I would say there in my experience, I don't know if you guys have seen this also, but like, obviously you guys have all run games. You've all played games for a really long time, right? 5e really has created this culture where there are people playing 5e for a decade now that have no idea how the game works.
That's right.
They've never DM'd it and they don't know the rules.
Right. Yep.
And they'll show up to play a game and they really don't know what the rules are. Mm-hmm. So part of it is definitely, I'm not disputing people are bad at math. That is for sure a real phenomenon. There's also the very real thing of people are playing games that don't know the rules.
Yeah.
So they're just straight up not able to track what's happening. So they're just rolling a die and going, what happens? Right. Cause they just don't know what the rules are. And so that's kind of like a weird cultural thing that I've seen also, where like I growing up playing these games, that was not the expectation. Obviously, like if you showed up and you're new, like that's one thing. We're
Sure.
going to help you out and teach you the game. But if you've been playing the game for 3 years and don't even own a player's handbook and don't know the rules,
Right.
like that's a whole different situation. So
Well, I think it's interesting, right? Like when we were growing up, and I think I can speak for all of us, but like when we originally had to learn, D&D, right? Because that's probably what it was, is we actually had to physically obtain the book, like open it and actually like read it, right? And now it's like, you just you put on the the drama TV show, Critical Role or whatever, and you just like watch that, and it doesn't teach you how to play. It's just it's it's watching a TV show, and like and then people are like, oh, I've watched this for 5 seasons, so I'm I know how to play, but they don't know anything, and that's I think that's where they're that's how they're learning to, the game is by watching the TV show, and it's not,
Yeah.
Yeah,
They watch it.
It's not doing that. Shellback, you should see, this is exactly how Jason is in real life.
Yeah.
So
this weekend was very frustrating for me.
yeah.
I couldn't roll over a 5, and it was really getting on my nerves, man.
I kind of laugh at on a side note here, the argument that, it popped up again, like all RPG arguments do, about the GM screen. I've always used a GM screen. I roll behind the GM screen, and if I was cheating, I would be cheating a lot more in my favor than the dice seem to be landing on, and all my guys are just laugh at me. As a matter of fact, because I get mad and I'll just tuck a die off into the bowels of my basement. One of my guys bought me this.
Oh, it's the big D20.
It's a foam rubber. That way, if I inadvertently,
I love it.
Shank one of those guys with one, they won't get hurt. Yeah,
I love
very
it.
aggravated.
Where were we
with,
playing when the only time I made a hit the whole night was when I threw my die in the trash?
That was
I
Paige.
just rolled a nat
Paige.
20.
That was at Page too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a good night.
Yeah. So yeah. So what,
Sorry, what was the topic? We
no,
got a
that's
little
okay.
sidetracked there.
Sorry,
that's armor class.
sidetrack.
Yeah, we were talking about armor class and stuff, and I think we covered. It's hard, I think, to cover. To have a thing like you can't roll. You can't have an attack roll to see if you physically hit somebody, and then a roll to see if you can get between his armor, and then so I think that's why everything's combined into one number, and I think that's fine for the most part, or to do a damage reduction thing. I mean, I get why you can't do a huge thing. I do like the weapon charts from like 1E, and you don't see that translated too much. I think Hyperborea does it. They took those charts and stuff, and I really like that. And I think it makes a fighter character a lot better. Like I think the fighter character has gotten worse over the years, and it's because of the combat rules have gotten kind of simplified. Because like the fighter having, being able to use any weapon is in old school games, I think is a lot better than it is now, because now it doesn't matter. You're just doing damage. But in the old school game, it was like, oh, this guy's wearing scale mail. So, or ring mail or whatever. So I have to use a bashing thing. I'm going to use my mace and I can, get in there, or this guy's wearing, and different things like that. Or, oh, we're going in the dungeon, so I can't use my, my two-handed axe because you're in a cave, you know what I mean? And you need,
clearance for it.
6 feet to swing this thing around, so you can you could switch like that. So and so I think that's changed a lot.
You know me, I'm all for the realism. A few casts ago I talked about using a pole arm. Sorry man, your pike is 15 feet long. It doesn't work the way you think it works.
Yeah,
but this is not a medieval or a musketeer combat simulator. It's Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
He's using a two-handed sword. That's what he's using. Just let the guy swing and do his damage. It's
Right,
fine.
and that's why we just got to kind of, have to have some sacrifices, I think, in that.
right.
Sacrifice granularity for speed and quickness.
Ease of
And I'm
play.
Right. Yep.
and I'm okay with that,
I'm fine too. Like every once in a while, throwing in like, with like say the two-handed sword or whatever. Well, you're in this. You're fighting through this kobold warren that you can't swing
Yeah.
it, so you're
Right.
gonna have to draw your dagger or short sword or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's
spear.
fine.
You can barely
Um,
squeeze through the tunnels.
Right. Like
Yeah.
those weapons aren't going to work,
Yeah.
so that type of realism
it's a
I
good-
like to impose. But like when it
Mhm.
gets into crunching numbers and stuff to add this, to do this, for me,
Sure.
that just slows things down. Cause I'm not a math person. I can add anything on the D20, but beyond that, so I'm like, I don't like to add any of those things. I just want the combat. I want your turn to go. I want you to have a good
Yeah.
turn, and get what you want done. But I don't want to bog down with, oh, we got to add this. Like, I just don't. That stuff doesn't appeal to me in a game.
Yeah, it feels like a good place to leverage like a disadvantage or Bane and Boon kind of system too, right? So it's like, okay, if you want to use that sword here, I'm not going to tell you can't at all,
Yep.
but you can have disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
That's a good use for that system.
Shellback,
Yeah.
I think most of the players that I play with could not manage 20 push-ups. So I don't. I like that. I like that idea a lot,
I
but I don't think.
I
it
think
would work.
that number is wildly ambitious. At 20, wildly
Be
ambitious.
like the beginning of Stripes. Come on, give me two. Come on.
Yeah.
One. Oh God.
Give
Yeah.
me one. Come on. So I guess that brings us to damage rolls, and really this can probably episode on itself. But when we talk about damage rolls, we got to talk about hit points, and what are even hit points? I mean, like does a 20th level fighter really have 120 hit points? I mean,
No.
Is
He
that
knows how to move his body. He knows how to wear his armor better. He can absorb a hit better than a
Sure,
personal
right.
fighter. A human
No,
is a
I
human. He's
agree.
got probably 4 hit points. That's it.
I agree. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's just wearing down the hit points, and that's just wearing
Right.
down his stamina until he gets down to that one hit point, and then that's the
Right.
killing blow or whatever.
Right.
I think we could probably all agree on that. I don't know.
I hope not. I want to hear somebody argue with me.
Well,
Argue it.
I mean,
These are the things I like to talk about. So let's do it.
who thinks we're wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. I
Matt,
just don't.
Matt with the
like,
deep
I've never done
inhale.
that.
Matt.
So yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing, right? Because like I grew up with D&D hit points, so like my natural feeling is like, oh yeah, like you're totally, if you have 120 hit points, you're the first 119, you're fine, right? And then that 120th one, right? But like when you play more modern games that have sort of said like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't really make sense. Like if I'm stabbing you with a knife, like you're not perfectly fine until the one that finally gets your heart, and then you die instantly. Like that's not really
Right.
super realistic, right? I mean, so Mothership, for instance, with its idea of wounds, right? Like where you have a number of wounds
Yeah.
and each wound has a certain number of, and once you exceed that, you're going to roll on a wound table. And even if you have 2 or 3 wounds, you could die from the first wound that you get, right? You probably won't, but you could. There's also games that do different types of attrition, right? Where like Crown and Skull, for instance, your abilities and equipment is attrition as you take damage, right? You're no longer able to use some of your stuff anymore. So it's a way of measuring like that you get weaker. And then Into the Odd and its derivatives they used to call it HP, which was hit protection. They've renamed it now in like Mythic Bastionland because that's very confusing to people. But basically you have a little bit of hit protection that it's almost like Halo shields. Like they go down fast, but they regenerate after every encounter. But once they're down, your actual attributes are taking damage, which makes it like so that you're less effective. Now, the problem with all that stuff from a game perspective is once you start losing, it becomes easier and easier to continue to lose.
Right.
So while it feels sort of right and more realistic, as a player at the table, it kind of sucks because it's like now that I've been
Down this
hit, I
rabbit hole.
suck. Right. And so it's just this death spiral that sort
Yeah.
of can kick you down this path of like making it unfun to play. Now, the flip side of that argument is like, yeah, it sucks getting stabbed. It sucks getting shot. Like you shouldn't want those things to happen to you. Right. So try to come up with ways to stop
Avoid
that
it,
from
yeah.
happening.
The Free League
Yeah,
games are a
so-
lot like that too. They not
Yeah.
Dragonbane, but like I've played like Vaesen and Mutiny of Zero, stuff like that. They have that, you start to lose as you go down. And once that spiral starts, it can be pretty punishing. But those games too are designed that way. So I'm okay
Right.
with that.
The
Right.
I think it was the D20 Star Wars, but I think it was like I forget what they called it, but they kind of like revamped it like after it had come out, and they had that weird like square book, and they
Yeah.
did it in there, and then they did it in Star Adventurer was when they did where when you crit it deals the same amount of damage, but it deals it directly to your constitution.
Mm.
And so, and like that was the thing, like you could go down to 0 hit points and you'd still be up, but then you'd start to take damage on your constitution. And once your constitution got to 0, you're dead. But crit automatically went to, your constitution. So that could mess you up in a hurry.
I like it.
Yeah, I
in,
think a lot of it just has to do with what kind of game it is,
Yeah,
right? Like Dungeons and Dragons is not trying to be that kind of game.
Sure.
I mean, I do think like the idea, for instance, with like bosses, like get bloodied or whatever. So like when they're at 50% of their hit points, this thing happens. It's sort of like a video game kind of thing. The video game boss has like the 3 phases. Like now I'm really mad, so I have all these other attacks I
Yeah.
can do. But that is kind. I mean, that is kind of cool. Like just to sort of mix up what's happening in a combat if certain abilities unlock as players or monsters are getting more hurt. Like that can be kind of neat. But in straight up D&D and those kind of games, like it just to avoid that death spiral, like that's just how they're set up, and I don't have a problem with it. I mean, even though it doesn't feel realistic, like most of what's happening in D&D is not realistic, right?
Yeah.
So
what people don't normally venture into dungeons and fight dragons and all that stuff. Is that not a normal occurrence for you?
I
mean, it feels like that might be. Oh, anyway, I don't want to get into that, but yeah.
I always like the Palladium system. They have 2 levels of hit points, and I don't remember their names. I think one is
it's
SDC.
like mega.
Yeah, well,
it's like mega damage.
That's
something,
rips. Yeah, that's rips.
Oh,
and, and one mega damage is 100 structural damage. Like if you're not in rifts, everything else uses. I think it's SDC, but you have your SDC or whatever it's called. Sorry,
SDC,
but again, the MDC is only in rifts or for large monsters. Anyway, so you've got your SDC, and you might have 40 SDC, and you can when those 40 SDC being worked on, you're fully functional. You're getting hit, you're taking some damage, but there's something going on. Once your SDC hits 0, now you start working on your hit points, which are based on your constitution. And when your hit points start getting hurt, that's when you're in real bad shape. You start taking wounds, and that's, things start failing and you're not able to do things. And I really like that system. The problem with it is it's more, it's another stack that the player needs to keep track of. And it's not as streamlined as a lot of other systems are, but I still like it. I think it's a good system.
Crunchy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little crunchy. Yeah.
And Paul, you mentioned Spycraft has a similar system. I loved first edition Spycraft. I didn't care for second edition, but first edition I liked quite a lot. It was one of my favorite RPGs. Yeah,
that's cool. So I mean, damage. I wanted to touch on this with damage. Is OD&D back in original D&D 0E, the little brown books, whatever you want to call it, everything was a D6. Now, it was probably just because, the other dice weren't available or whatever. And it's a holdover from some of the wargaming stuff. But, characters' hit dice were D6, and every weapon did D6 damage. And then you'd have situational, things where, like we said, okay, you got a 2-handed sword, you're in a dungeon, maybe you can't swing that there, or or something like that. What do you guys think of something like that as opposed to? I mean, I'm partial to the variable weapon damage, different dies and different hit die types and stuff. I'm all for it, but does it really matter? Should everything just be a D6 damage? And I mean, that solves a
I
lot of
like the
problems,
variety.
doesn't it?
It's simple, but I like the variety as well. I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
be like 100% opposed to the D6 because it is just simple and fast, but but I like the variety. Like, oh, I got this, why carry a two-handed sword if you can carry a short sword and do the same amount of damage? Like the old basic, it was basically you had what, sword and two-handed sword or however they named it. Like there was two
Yeah.
different things. Like Redbox, I remember, and did that. So I don't know. I think the variety is good. I don't need like, a laundry list of weapons, but I do like to have variety.
Yeah, so not to keep pumping up Dragonbane, but like
Yeah.
one of the things that I like about Dragonbane is so they use tags on a lot of the weapons, right? Because like
I love tags. Love
yeah,
tags.
so like I love DCC. I'll beat up on it a little bit for a second, right? Like
Yeah.
most of the weapons in DCC, like it's very rare for like you can have weapons do D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, right? When you go high up, you're usually talking about two-handed, and so there are negatives there. In theory, your initiative's a D16, and you can't use a shield, stuff like that. But like in reality, a lot of the times, like if a club does D4 and a hand axe does D6 and a longsword does D8, and like you can one hand wield any of those, like there's no drawback to having the D8 weapon versus the D4.
Right.
I like when systems use tags or some other type of differentiator to make it feel
Yeah.
mechanically better to use one or the other. So like this weapon does blunt damage. It's better at shattering shields, or it's better at breaking
Right.
armor. This one's better for, right? Like a dagger you can throw, you can dual wield without a penalty, whatever it is. Like systems that come up with reasons why a lower damage weapon might be a preferred tool for you to use because it has other benefits.
Right.
And similarly, a higher damage one may have drawbacks. I think that's good, and I wish more systems would do that.
I think that's
We've gotten away from that
fantastic.
a little bit.
Yeah, and I would even be okay with something that would where you'd have like, okay, a small weapon does 1d6, right? And it's like one-handed and can be concealed, and then a medium-sized weapon does 1d8, and that can be used one hand. Maybe it's 1d8, 1d10 if used one-handed or two-handed or something.
Mhm.
And then like a large weapon is two-handed and is always a d10 or maybe a d12 or something. And then the only difference, and then it doesn't matter, right? That it's like a large two-handed weapon can be anything, a large spear or halberd or an axe or a great sword or whatever. But then yeah, you differentiate that with the tags and say, okay, this is heavy. This is, and then you have those defined is okay. A heavy weapon can smash armor or whatever, things like that. I would love that. I think that's fine. To have like a fixed kind of tier damage thing like that with tags.
I
Tags are
think
a
it's
great idea.
I think it's an OSR issue, to be honest with you. Like a lot of the stripped down OSR games, that's one of the things that they have jettisoned is like weapons just deal different damage, but outside of that, they're functionally similar.
Yeah,
So that's one thing will frustrate me about some of the simpler, like, yeah, it's easy to run, but it's like, why does my guy have a femur that does D4 if I could have a warhammer that does D8 and they're functionally the same outside of the
right,
damage that they do? Like that's
right.
Yeah.
kind of sucks.
And I think
So
that's something that got taken out of like a lot of OSR games because nobody wanted to use those charts or those sections from like the AD&D books, that had that stuff in there. So that's not something that you generally see in the other systems. Um, but tagging, I really, I know I've mentioned that like 6 times here in the past 2 minutes, but yeah,
it's cool. It's
it
good.
is, it's
Yeah.
cool. And it's easy because you can easily differentiate between like those things,
Mhm.
because a femur, you can say, okay, this is piercing, whereas a hammer's bludgeoning, and then that can have different effects, depending on what you're doing with it. Like a thief is gonna use the femur, and he's gonna have a better time getting through somebody's armor, between 2 plates of armor or whatever on somebody than he would with a hammer or so, which I think is really neat. Um, Yeah. So unfortunately, I think we're all on the same page with this. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to.
It's going to happen sometimes.
There's nothing to
Yeah.
fight about. What are we doing? What are we even doing here?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we covered critical hits and stuff. How do you guys feel about fixed damage? I know that like 5e suggested it. I know that there's some games that do it. In 5e, it was always in the suggested or in the parentheses where they say, with a d6, it was always, I think, 4 damage or whatever. They'd always round.
When I ran 5e, I would use that sometimes because I was at the point where anything to speed up the combat in 5e, which is horrifically slow. I would use it sometimes just because it was fast and I had 7 or 8 players, so we had to keep the game moving. I generally like to roll, even though dice hate me. I still like to roll because every once in a while a really good one.
Yeah,
Make a play.
I love rolling dice, and I mean I'm to the point where like I have told players that whenever anything gets doubled, like we don't just multiply it by 2, we roll double.
Yeah, we roll the dice.
We
So
roll
do we.
double the dice. So like that's my rule is like anytime where there's an option to roll more dice, we roll more dice because rolling more dice is cool. And then we get to watch to watch Jason roll 6 dice and they'll all come up, 1s and 2s, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I rolled like 8. What it was 8 or 9 d8s, and 90% of them came up like 1s and 2s. It was the worst flame strike attack I've ever seen in my life. I was so mad.
God.
Cure serious wounds for 4
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Oh man.
yeah, that sounds like our cleric, my buddy Matt.
I've wondered sometimes, like, so this is something I've thought about sometimes with weapon damage. Like, I've often wanted to substitute out like the single die for, like, if you can break it into 2. So like instead of a d10 roll 2d5, instead of a d8 roll 2d4, like that's, or 2d6 instead of a d12. Like it's in between fixed damage and a single die because now you're putting it on a curve.
Yeah.
Right. So like, and the higher up weapons are always going to deal at least 2 if you're rolling 2 dice. So it's not like I hit him with my d12 and I rolled a 1, right? It's like, how do you smooth that out a little bit? Fixed damage to me like feels, I would miss rolling the damage dot. Like variability to me, it's like every time you hit somebody with a sword, it's not going to be exactly the same.
Right.
That feels a little weird to me. But I do get the idea of like, it's very frustrating to roll a single large die to deal damage and roll 1. So like, are there opportunities to smooth that out with multiple dice across a curve? Maybe that's something that games should do more often, but.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you there. My only issue with breaking dice down is rolling multiple d4s. I hate rolling multiple d4s. I ended up buying the Chessex. They have a d12.
That's right. I have some of those
labeled. Like
there's lots of d4 solutions now that are not the Caltrop triangles that are like, right? Like, I mean, that's the whole thing is those dice do suck, but
and they just like plop.
Goodman's got good.
You know?
Yeah, Goodman has the ones that kind of roll. I mean, they're rounded. I mean, they're not great. Well, they're better than the triangles.
They are. Yeah. I'll give you that. Jason's going to disagree with it, which is fantastic. Right?
I do not like that die set, man. Yeah. But it's not that, it's a rounded D4. I mean, I got plenty of funky dice in my collection, but like, the whole DCC thing here, roll a D3. Okay. D6 divided by 2, man. Come on.
I hear. I hear.
D5. Here, roll a D7. Okay. Or the lower dice aren't that bad because you can look at a D7 and okay, that's a 7. Roll a D24. Which one is no that's a 20. This is a 26. I have a 24 here somewhere.
The 14 and the 16. The 14 and the 16. I see.
They look and there's like a millimeter in diameter difference. I can't. I just forget this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially when you're not playing with people that have been gaming for a long time. Like when you see
Oh,
newbies
yeah.
try to, and it's like, yeah, here's your, yeah. I mean, they already don't know what a D12 is. Now you're
Yeah.
putting 4 dice that look just like it in front of them.
Yeah.
It's rough. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, that's why they make those the dice
The
trays
trays.
there that have them all labeled, and
Yeah.
you line them up, and yeah,
You know, when
Well, the other thing is like for new people playing DCC, like don't give them the nice set that's all the same colors. Get
Right.
them the ugly one where all the different dice
blue,
are
this
different
one's green,
colors.
yeah.
and then you say,
Yeah,
"Oh,
at least
roll
help
the
them
yellow
out.
one."
And you go, it's
Yeah.
roll the green one. Like that's so much
Yes.
better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I forget the name of that set, but yeah, no, that's definitely the set that you want to give to
The beginner
the
set,
beginners and stuff, where you could just say, "Roll a D12, it's the blue one," like, and then they,
Right.
yeah, until it clicks, you know. Yeah, when I roll a D6 or D3, 1 plus 4 is 1 what? 2 plus
I roll a-
5 is 2, 3 plus 6. Oh, 3
Outside
and
of
6.
DCC, when I have to roll
Oh.
a D3, I just roll a D4, and because it does 1 D4, whatever it is, nothing does 1 D3.
Okay.
That's how I
All
do
right.
it. I'm like,
Yeah.
unless
one
you bought
point.
the new Castles and Crusades Adventurers army, where all the weapons
Everything's a
do
D3,
D2.
I had that,
Oof.
and I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Paul, I don't know about that. A mix. Half damage is set and you roll for the rest. So like what if you had like if something was a D8, you would roll D4 plus 4?
Yeah.
Plus 4.
You know, and
Instead, something like that.
again, you know, this is one of those things where the player's like, yeah, that's awesome, until the monsters start doing it to them.
Monster does it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
getting clobbered at every turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have to sit there and hope that Roger's dice grow cold, because that does happen every now and then. Just not.
It does. There are days. There are days where I'll have like a ton of giants and they just can't hit, and I'll roll under 5 like repeatedly, and it'll be terrible. And then there are days like when you guys fought the dragon where I'm just hot.
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm just hot. Yeah, and it's bad. Crit damage is max plus normal. George does that.
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to
Yeah.
say. I wish that George were here. He lost connection and had to drop off. That's what he does when
Yeah.
he runs Castles and Crusades, and
Yeah.
I really like that
Mhm.
because that way, you know, like me, I'm going to roll my 2d8 from my spear, and I am going to roll 2 1s. It is going to happen. So so I've got 8 plus my damage bonus of 8 also, and now I'm rolling another d8. So I know I'm going to get some solid
Yeah.
damage out of this. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
I mean that's how, yeah, like going back to before, that's what Call of Cthulhu does, right? Like if you shoot somebody with a gun and get an extreme success, it does max damage plus another bonus die on top of it.
Yeah.
So it'll be like 8
Yeah.
plus D8, right? So it's literally like, yeah, they're not gonna say, oh, you got an extreme success, you shoot them right through the forehead for 3 damage, right? It's like it doesn't make sense to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's fine, and it's a great rule, and that's the one I should use. But also, like, 2 things with that, right? For me, one, I like rolling more dice. So, like, to me, you're rolling the same amount of dice. It's like whatever. But also, you know, and Jason's mentioned this a few times, like now when a monster hits, it's 9 to 16
Yep.
instead of 2 to 16.
If you roll 2d8, you're going to hit 14 or more. At least if you're swinging at me, you're going to.
Yes.
So,
Well,
To me,
absolutely.
it isn't really going to make much of a difference on my end. It's
Right,
just gonna help me out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, and that's my, you know, that's just my whole thing. So, you know, I mean, that's that. So, yeah, damage. What else? I think that's we kind of covered critical hits. We talked a lot about crits and the crit charts. I really do like the crit charts. I really do. The especially the DCC crit charts, they get better as you level. They get the monster ones. I think they're really fantastic.
They're great until my 3rd level thief one-shot your vampire.
Yeah. Oh my
That's what
God.
happens.
That was terrible. That was
Mhm.
terrible. He rolled like max damage and got like through the heart, shot through the heart on the crit chart, and just
One shot of the
killed
vampire. and I
one
was like,
shot of the
"That's right."
vampire. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it just that was a whole thing I had.
Yeah, but look, you Yeah, but you still remember it, right?
I do.
So
No,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
yeah.
Right.
It
No,
was very
it was awesome. It was cool. I like some of the like one of the on the giant table. One of them is that he like pounds you on the head and like you permanently are 2 inches shorter or something like
You
that.
accordion down.
It's awesome.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's so some of that stuff is really really cool. Yeah, so that's damage. Unless anybody's got anything else that they want to add to talk about damage. So magic, and we're going to talk about spell casting next week.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's going to be a whole thing. So I just
Okay,
want to
that's a
talk
whole
about
nother
it
topic.
in combat as far as like when you're in combat, a lot of systems you don't have hang on, let's cover this really quick. CNC does the backstab attack. I think they get a bonus. I think it's like a +4
+4 to hit.
bonus
Yeah.
when
And they
they're
get a
aligned,
modifier. They
and
get a
then
multiplier for their damage.
they get a multiplier based on their level.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like ×2, and then when they hit like level 5, it's like ×3, and then at some point it's ×4. I think when they hit 12th level, something like that. But magic, like, so CNC doesn't have like attacks of opportunity. So I think you can cast a spell in combat, like, and you don't get an attack of opportunity or anything like that. Am I right on that, Takato? Because that's the way I've been doing it. So
Yeah, you
which
can.
is
You can.
you can, yeah. And then I think if you get hit though, you can't cast the spell that round or something. Is that
There's a couple different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
You can have it outright, they lose the spell, like old school, or you can have them make like if it's a say it's a wizard, they can make an
like a
intelligence check.
concentration check or something? Yeah.
Basic
Yeah.
concentration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Against like the level of the spell or something.
Yeah,
Or
I
would
think
you
the
have to roll
level up
against the
is-
damage.
I think how does that work? My one player that's a wizard, he stays out of melee as much as possible. So he's smart that way.
Well, that's what you should do.
I'm trying to remember what the CL is for that. It's either the level of the spell. I think we use the level of the spell.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen very often. He'll get hit with ranged attacks because they'll light him up as soon as he starts casting spells, which is always awesome for me. But
Yeah.
he has a really horrible armor class, so he's even with my dice rolling is relatively easy to hit, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, the wizards,
Yeah.
they really can't wear anything. So,
No,
that's
no,
fantastic.
and I haven't dropped a lot of stuff in the game that would boost his armor class because he's like I said
Yeah.
earlier, he's to the point where he's able to dole out damage, and I don't want him to have both being able to dole out damage and be nigh impossible to hit. He has a few spells that he uses that can make it hard, but
How
I
does
usually find a
how
way
does
around 'em.
how does Dragonbane handle that? Do they have
Magic? They don't have attacks of opportunity that I'm aware of.
like there's no, so if you
You-
cast a spell in melee, like you can't lose it. It just happens. I mean, you roll obviously rolling under your skill,
Right.
but there's no
Um,
loss.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'd have to look at it, I guess. It's been a while. And I've never played a wizard in Dragonbane.
You got any thoughts on that, Matt? Do you know about that
In which system?
in
Dragonbane.
Dragonbane? If there's if you lose
Oh,
a
if you can,
spell,
like,
if you get
drop a
hit or
spell.
something, or
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't believe
Doesn't
so.
sound familiar.
it just kind of happens. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I've always been like I remember they doing it in like 3.5, right? Where like you had to make a concentration check, I think, and it was like it was ridiculous. I think it was like 15 plus the damage was the DC
Yeah, it's crazy.
or
Yeah.
something, which was it might have been 10 plus the damage, but I thought it was like 15 plus damage dealt to see if you can maintain the, casting the spell or whatever. And I don't know. I think that's a good idea, but it's also, I think, a feel bad thing where like, the wizard gets a bad initiative or something. And then, he's trying to like cast like, fireball or lightning bolt or something that's going to, really help out the fight. And then he gets hit by an arrow from a goblin and it's the whole thing's, now the spell doesn't just not go off, but now he's lost the spell for the day. and he just can't do it. So I'm not a big fan of doing that. I mean, I like to see, people cast their spells and stuff,
Yeah, that's not a rule that I've ever incorporated when I ran, even if it was in the rule books. If a wizard got hit in combat, if I were going to damage his spell casting, it'd be like, okay, you hiccuped. You can still cast it next. Your fireball has not disappeared. You can still cast it, but you
Sure.
can't cast it this round. But I'm of two minds on that. If you do it so that if the wizard gets hit, he can't cast. For me, it emphasizes the fact that your wizard is squishy and he's not meant to be hit. You stay in the back, you stay
Yeah.
behind some, you use cover, you think about where you're going and what you're about to do. So I like that because it makes you more proactive towards your own defense. But it also, I feel like it hampers the person playing the wizard. And instead of worrying about, think about where his fireball is going to go and how he's going to do it. The first thing he has to think about is, I need to find cover. And for me, I play a cleric. I play a spellcaster. If I had to worry about my cure spell is not going to go off if the giant hits me, then I'm not worried. I'm not focused on healing the guy that I need to get to. I'm more worried about going around and hiding. And that's not anything I'm interested in doing.
This is a good point, too. Not bad in 3.5 when you have like 56 spells per day at 10th level.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like theoretically, it's a way to counterbalance how powerful wizards get, like the idea that you could disrupt what they're doing. But I think like it's definitely, I agree with you, Jason. Like, I think not only is it like a feel bad moment, it like fundamentally changes how that player needs to approach encounters.
Right.
And it almost means they're like playing a different game than the rest of the PCs. And like, I don't really like that. I mean, it's one of my issues with how thieves are handled in some systems too, where it's like everybody's fighting. And then meanwhile, the thief, like every round is like coming up with some new way to explain how and why they could backstab this enemy in the middle of this fight that's happening, right? It's like another sort of thing where I'm like, all right, so they're playing a different game than everyone else during combat. So I like systems that try to avoid that. I don't think I would be a big fan of, maybe like if you're going to have a system where you got to cast this spell over 2 rounds and it's some like crazy effect that you're trying to do, right? And it can be interrupted, like that's different. But yeah, I sort of like bread and butter spells. I don't think I would be a big fan of taking agency away from players like that.
One of the things you mentioned is it can be used as a way to counter the strength of the higher level casting. For me, they've already done that. The wizard cannot wear armor of any kind, and and multi-class, but we're not talking about that. And D4 for hit points, or I think it's D6 and C and C, but really low hit points. Even with a D6, if you're 5th level and you roll 6 all the way across the board, you've got 30 hit points. That's less than half of the average fighter. That's you're squishy. So you're already thinking defensively. At least you should be, unless you're playing the wizard in our campaign and you don't ever do that. Anyway, but I think that it's the caster is balanced enough without having to stack more things on him. That's just how I feel about it. And I don't like playing wizards. It's not a class that I'm into. I play them only when I seriously have no other choice.
Yeah. I kind of like the wizard in Dragonbane. That guy's kind of cool.
I watched you had a
Master
very
Aoden.
good, yeah. You were having a great time with that dude. It was pretty cool.
Well, because I mean, like when I play a mage, like I always try and use the spells for like what they're not supposed to be used for.
You take it as far over the top as you possibly can.
And Matt was great. Like, was it Pillars? Is that the?
Yeah, there was like
exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah, there was like a hole trap. Yeah, and you're just like, well, I'll just bring a pillar up and we just walk across. Like, yeah. Right.
Yep.
But I think that's cool though. I mean, like it's stuff.
Yeah. And then like DCC,
letting the wizard not just be letting the wizard not just be this exponentially powerful damage dealer, like to me is better.
Right.
Like it's much more fun when they can interact with the rest of the game. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I really think that's good. Good playing. And like, it's good when a system lets you sort of is designed to let you do that and not just spam damage spells in combat.
Yeah, right. To be I guess utilitarian or whatever is really good. And I think that's how like the wizard originally was. I mean, yeah, they had like the bigger damage spells and stuff, but like, you know, the wizard was like
Spider climb
like
and
a toolbox. Yeah, right, to do all that stuff. Like, oh, we got to get over this wall. Yeah, you do spider climb, or you got to freeze something or whatever. You can just do that, you know. Which is good. And Dragon Mages can be shut down with metal.
Mhm.
A
Yeah, metal like prevents you from being able to cast spells.
So when you're like bound or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why they can't wear metal armor. It like
Okay.
interferes with their ability to channel magic.
Oh, that's the reason. Like, okay. That's cool.
Mhm.
That's cool. That's interesting. Yeah, so you put a wizard in manacles and they can't cast spells. That's interesting. No, you don't like that idea?
Oh no, I
You're
love
shaking
it.
your head.
I'm sitting here thinking 75% of this panel is telling you that we should be playing Dragonbane.
Oh yeah. Anyway, moving on.
I love Dragonbane, dude. I play the Wolfkin every time, and I have such a good time playing that dude.
I love the Wolfkin is so cool. I love that he comes with the bottle of
the perfume.
The perfume or whatever, and it says he like cares about his look and all that stuff.
Yeah, I just like whenever like he's got like a little wooden comb, he's constantly combing himself. But I love, man, we're really getting off topic, so I'm going to keep it short.
That's okay.
I love the personality traits that they want you to focus on, and in the starter box, the Wolfkin is a glutton. So every time I'm like, get me a sandwich. You know, I'm just always eating. Dragonbane's so much fun, man. I have such a good time with the game.
No, it's
So
fun.
That's it.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead. I was going to say that's something Free League's very good at generally is like building in role-playing prompts mechanically, right? So like the whole reroll system in Dragonbane is designed to like prompt you to role play something that gets a mechanical effect, right? I think they're very good at that intersection of like not telling you this is exactly how you have to role play your character, but there's like prompts and hints that have mechanical intersection, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shellback.
Oh, there's another son of a
that's
bitch
gonna
right
do
there.
is make Ducato mad. Oh boy. You just had to go.
I
I just got mine.
I saw a thing today. They said there's still only like 50% shipped in the US. I'm like, well, they got like half a person working on this. What's going on?
One guy's
Did you
just
back-
Yeah, it's gotta be
jogging
like-
around.
He's one
I just
guy
got
and he's
mine.
90.
You just got
I'm like,
yours
son
too.
of a bitch.
I just got mine. Yeah.
I got mine a couple of days ago. Poor Ducato's still waiting for shipping notice.
Nothing.
feel
I
bad.
check every day. Nothing.
Oh man. Yeah, no, my only hang up with Dragonbane is
You don't feel it has long-term potential.
I don't think it has long-term potential. That's my whole thing.
I disagree, but
know,
but that's okay. That's all right.
You know, I don't know. You know, and maybe we'll try it. We'll do a short thing. Go ahead, Matt.
I feel like there's some validity to that, especially if you're used to a more traditional leveling system as far as how you advance. Like, I don't know that I necessarily disagree. I will say, like, there's an opportunity there to have like a larger roster of characters that you get to rotate through. Like if you're playing a longer campaign, like that's a way to mitigate that. That's kind of fun. Like, hey, we have a group of like 8 to 10 PCs. They're not all going out to do everything all the time. Like we can mix and match and sort of get to, so that's a way to sort of keep it fresh. So you're not just sitting on the same character that maybe isn't leveling and advancing quite the same way that you would if you were playing a traditional.
And I agree, and that's how I run my home game. Is the players have a stable of characters, and we figure out who's going to go out and stuff and do things.
That's
so
something
maybe.
In Roger's game, and we've talked about this before, but we're supposed to have like a stable of 3 or 4 characters that we use kind of interchangeably, but we don't. We have our mains that are all 8-ish, and then we've got alts that are 4-ish, and then I'm never going to play this guy is level 1. In Dragonbane, there is no level 10. There's a guy who has an 18 sword skill versus a 14 sword skill. 14 sword skill still plenty good. So, you can have this stable of 8 guys or this 8 characters. I feel like playing a thief today. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're more effective as you play that character more because you have more chances to increase his abilities, but you're not ineffective being a lower level character. And that's a really good strength to me in Dragonbane.
Yeah. You don't level up though. Like I just saw Shellback. You don't level up every session in Dragonbane. You get an opportunity, but there's no guaranteed success.
And it's not a level up.
fail
It's
your
you're only
role.
leveling up one
Your skill creases.
kind
You
of
can go up
stat or
to-
whatever, or a few. Yeah,
Yeah, you can do up to like 4, I think.
4 or 5. I think is
Well,
like
it
the most.
depends.
4 or
It
5,
depends. It depends though, because in
Because
Dragonbane,
if you get a demon or a dragon, there's another roll.
it's a free
Yeah.
reroll, so you can't use any of the ones you get at the end to use with those as well. But
Right.
I mean, you can, but it's not guaranteed. I mean, I've had sessions like playing Call of Cthulhu, which they're both very similar systems in that
Mhm.
regard, where I don't increase anything because the dice hate me, and then I love Dragonbane. It's probably my favorite overall favorite
I'm-
RPG.
I gotta say, I am excited for the Trudvang.
Oh my god!
Me too, dude. Yeah.
And that's going to
Really?
be like a year, right, before we get that. I mean,
Probably.
Probably,
I mean,
yeah.
They haven't even launched it yet, so it's like
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
just
gonna
need
be-
more time to paint
it's gonna be
the
way
box
out
full of
there.
miniatures I have in front of me. So
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yes, we touched on magic. What about other combat options? To kind of get back to combat and stuff. I wrote that one down. I know that there's sometimes you have, characters, especially the wizard, he's used all his spells or used half his spells and doesn't want to do anything. So he just kind of is like, okay, I'm gonna sit this one out, or whatever. So I know some systems have like, the assist rolls or help or whatever, where they got to roll, like an attribute check or something, and then if they succeed, then they give you like +2 on a roll because they're helping you spot enemies or whatever the case may be. What do you guys think of like things like that, like giving players who aren't involved in the combat something to do?
I think that's a great idea because, like in the OSR games, the wizard example, like they're not effective for very long. I mean, they're going to burn through their meager assortment of spells. So, like, if one of them, like, if I had a guy that was playing a wizard and he's like, "Well, I'm going to go over and help the fighter that's more of an archer, like pick out targets," and then I would do something like that. Like, oh, okay, he's doing that. You get a +2 to hit bonus.
He's your
providing
spotter.
that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's a
he's
sniper
basically your
spotter.
spotter.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that's what they should be doing. That's
I
what they
totally
that's what
agree.
they did. It was like
Yeah.
find a way to like. There's an old adage we used to use, like, and it's in the military too. Like, find work, right? So it's like
That's right.
if back in my former career, like we were clearing a building, and I cleared my room. Well, now I got to go find some work because there's more to do, right? So I got to go do that, and instead. And I think that's the strength of, and this is a whole different topic, but like the strength of the OSR games where you don't have the laundry list of stuff on your sheet that you just play your sheet and it's left more up to the player. Well,
Yeah.
that good, get creative, figure it
Mhm.
out. Like, find something,
Yeah.
find work.
And I think a lot of the players that I play with are, either new or coming from like 5e or something, and so they're used to the piloting the mech thing. Have you guys heard that term before? Piloting the mech?
Mm-mm.
No, it's basically like, right, okay, you're in a mech, right? So you're in a mech suit, and all it is there's a bunch of buttons in front of you, right? So you push a button and the mech does the thing. And so like playing 5e, it's like the character sheet is your control panel.
The answers are on the character
So you
sheet.
see,
Yeah.
yes, you see, oh,
Yep.
okay, here's the list of things I can do. I'm going to push this button here. Oh, this is my
Yeah.
attack button, and I just attack. You do the thing, and so you look at the sheet to like do your thing. So I think when players look at like an OSR character sheet, they're like, "Oh, I can't do
I can't
anything."
do anything.
Because there's nothing on my
Oh, you
sheet.
can do plenty. Just tell me
But
what you want
really,
to
it's
do,
like,
and I'll
no,
tell you
you
what
can
to
do
roll.
everything. And so, like, I don't really tell my players to tell me things that aren't in the rules, but that's something that I think I would embrace. You know what I mean? If somebody said, "Hey, can I, because I can't do anything, can I help this guy spot targets or whatever?"
Sure.
I think that would be awesome. And maybe that's
Yeah.
something as a GM that I should push to my players and say, "Hey, you guys can do these sort of things." But also, I feel like the players should just be like, "I want to do this thing." That's not, and that's why I like new players, completely new players who've never played an RPG before, because they come to the game
don't
and they
have
have
any.
no idea what's possible.
Yeah.
So they just say, "Oh, can I do this thing?" And it's like, yes, absolutely you can, like roll
Yep.
the dice,
Yeah, they're great that way. That's one of
Yeah.
the
The wizard
super fun
running out
things
of
about playing with new people.
yeah, the wizard running out of spells was a problem for our group in the beginning. It took our wizard player would cast his magic missile or whatever he was casting, and then he'd be done, and he would quit. He's like, and he said it every time. Well, now I'm useless, and he would
Can't do
just throw his
anything.
hands up. I can't do anything, and I had to keep telling him, and like there, like I would start getting mad at him. Stop saying that. You're not useless. Your character has a 16 intelligence. Think smart. Look at the battlefield. Look around. Come up with ideas. Direct traffic. Instead of being the private standing on the front line, slinging bullets or swinging a sword, be the general. Be up on the hill, looking down, directing the battle. That's what that will allow you to stay involved in the game and not just sit there and pick your nose while because now we have another 6 rounds before we go off to do something else, and now you're sitting here doing nothing. And it took a long time to break him of that habit. He's good about it now, but man, it really took a while for him to get that.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think-
Yeah, it's interesting. Like so there's the extremes of this on the two, like the spectrum, the two extremes. So like Pathfinder 2e is pegged all the way on one side where you have 3 actions.
Yep.
And because you're very rarely going to want to do 3 attacks, there's a whole framework of other actions that you can do, right? So you can assist, you can give guidance, you can recall knowledge, right?
Yeah,
There's
that's
like
cool.
so recalling knowledge is like a very powerful thing to use your third action for, right? Tell me what this guy's weaknesses are. Like tell me something about his attacks. Tell me about, right? Like that kind of stuff is very helpful. And then obviously positioning in Pathfinder is really important too, to like flank or off guard people to get their AC down.
Yeah.
So those little +1s and -2s and stuff like that in Pathfinder, like an intimidate check, right? Get him to be frightened 1 or frightened 2. Those little adjustments add up really fast in the combat. So that game has like a whole framework around, it's on the sheet, it's in your list of actions, but the game knows that you're going to have to do this stuff, and it creates a whole list of things like on the menu to do. The other end would be like an OSR game that has very few rules, and that's where, like, as the GM, you want to incentivize people to come up with those different ideas. And I feel like one thing I've noticed is when you run a game like Mothership, for example, right? Because it's not only modern, it's like in the future, people seem to be a lot more apt to like come up with, because like it's like, oh, well, what would I do if I was in my house and this was happening?
Yeah.
Well, I'd get the fire. I can't see somebody. I'd get the fire extinguisher and I would shoot the fire extinguisher. Does that make it easier for my friends to see the invisible monster? Right? Like I would can I hack the computer and open the airlock? Can I do so? Like in a modern or sci-fi kind of game, I feel like players come up with that stuff much more readily. Where it's like, well, if we're in a dungeon and it's all just rock, like what the hell am I supposed to do? So you need to. I think it's a really good point about like encouraging players to think about how to be creative and what is not on their character sheet and what's in the environment. And some of that comes down to like module design. And the good modules will like give things that are in those spaces that are there to be interacted with in some way. Versus like maybe the bad modules are like you walk in a room, it's just a square room and there's 5 goblins, roll for initiative, right? Because then it's kind of like, well, what do I do if I'm out of spells or I'm out of actions or my weapon's broken, right? And if the rules don't say I can grapple this guy and do X, Y, or Z, like what am I supposed to do? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, good module design definitely. I think goes a long way to have other things to do and things like that. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it's always like, can you start a fire? Can you like grab
Yeah.
some curtains and throw them? Like, what can you do to give somebody disadvantage to do, just help out your
Yeah.
allies, right? Create cover. Can I knock over this bookcase and create some cover? Like,
Yeah,
there's
right.
always things you can do. It just sometimes takes people, to your point, a little while if they're used to that 5e. Like, all my answers are just on my sheet. It's just
Yeah.
a different way of playing. But I think
Yeah.
it's a much more rewarding way to play once you get used to it.
Sure.
And you're totally
Yeah.
right. Like, new players immediately play that way. Like, they're to the nth degree. Like, they're always like, I swing across the thing and I want to kick this guy into this guy, knock this thing over.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you not like tamper down that creativity while like sort of like,
Right.
well, there are some rules for this. Like, this is how this is going to play out.
Well, I think
Yeah.
as an experience, if you're like everybody here, if you're experienced like running games and stuff, like you encourage that behavior, right? But if you're less experienced, you can't operate outside the rules as
Yeah.
written, like instead of just embracing that creativity, they kind of like shut it down, and then they get pigeonholed into this, whatever the system is. And I think just, it's bad, I think, but I've seen that happen though. Like my 5e group, with a couple of exceptions, were all guys that had grown up playing like AD&D. But then they got it. We went all the way into 5e. And then when we switched to Castle Crusades, we had guys that were looking at this thing like, well, these all look like cookie cutter characters, because there's not a laundry list of bullshit that you can do.
Yeah.
And that just slows down combat and
Right.
kills creativity. But now they're like, oh, I get it. I can try to do this. Like my son, he was my test pilot for a CNC, and he had only really played 5e, and he was running his ranger through this cavern and encountered a couple. Well, no, he ran up and tried to fight four goblins at once, and they almost whooped him. And he was like, "Oh, this is different than 5e." And I'm like, "Yes, very much so." And then so
Yeah.
he started doing smarter things. He goes in the cave. He realizes the orcs in there. He's like, "Well, I don't want to run up and get those guys." So he was like luring them out. He'd set up for the goblins in there. He set up like traps and lured them
Nice.
out. And I rolled randomly. It worked great because they had like one wolf that would have probably wrecked them because it was the toughest thing in the group. And the trap got the wolf, so it got caught up in a snare, got taken out of combat.
So
And then he
cool.
goes in deeper, finds a couple
Yeah.
orcs, and he's
That's
like, I
awesome.
don't want to
Yeah.
fight those guys. He starts
Good.
making wrapping rags around his arrows and lights them on fire, and he's whacking them from range doing distance. And immediately got him thinking more than he'd had to in the past.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Quickly learned that he wasn't a superhero, and that
And
tactics need to be implemented.
yeah, and not absolutely true, but not just that. He runs up in 5th edition and he kills 4 goblins. Okay, you're done.
Yeah.
Cut, roll credits. Boring as hell. Go up, get spanked by some goblins, run like hell. They don't pursue you. They're getting their buddies. While they're doing that, you make traps and you start thinking. And now
Yeah.
you're playing a ranger. Now you're
Yep.
You got the
playing
makings of a
this
story there too.
ghillie
Yeah.
suit wearing killer in the dark. Man, that's like, yeah. And as you guys know, I am a ranger player. And so
Yeah.
when I hear stories like that, I'm like, yes, this is the way you play a ranger. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
You
story,
really
man. I'm
embraced it.
psyched.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on. We're getting close. We're about 9 minutes from the 3-hour mark here. I know.
Thank God, because I gotta
going for a
pee.
while. We got. I want to touch on
Actually.
morale, and player character death really quick. Morale. I don't use morale for players. I just use it for the monsters when they're not
Monsters.
when they're not in their lair. When they're in their lair, they'll fight to their death because they got nowhere to run to. But out in the wilderness and stuff, I always use morale when they get when their boss gets killed, or a leader type gets killed, or when they lose half their numbers, or if they're like orcs and like the wizard casts a fireball, and like it's just a show of force thing, and then they're like, nope, screw this, we're out, type of situation. Do you guys use morale?
I don't use it.
I do.
I like it, and I would use it. It's just not in CNC, so I don't think like to like, oh, I should roll morale. But if I was playing like Dragon Slayer or OSE,
Mhm.
I think I was just having this conversation with my guys, and I said one of the mistakes I think they've made in more modern D&D games, not all games, is that they took out morale. Like I wish it was an actual rule in CNC that you
I
had.
thought it was.
I thought it was.
I
No,
thought it
they
was.
they don't have a morale rating for the monsters.
All right.
I wish they did.
I mean, I just wing it, so but
And that's fine. I mean, that's how I run most of my games, it seems. But
yeah,
I think it's great because the way the old school games are, like you don't want to fight every monster you come to because
Right.
it's just a battle of
Right.
attrition. You're going to lose that.
Mhm.
So like,
Yeah.
oh, we might have this encounter, like, and that's part of some of the games where they lay out the steps of an encounter. You roll morale. You may not have to fight
Yeah.
those goblins because they're going to see your, 4,
right.
5-man party come in and they're going to be like, no, we're out of here. Or
Well,
they're
and
going to
it's
be
an
like,
issue
"Yep,
of
we're on."
like, do you really want to play out? Like, there's 20 goblins. Like, you guys, the group kills 10 of them. Like, do you really want to play out
Yeah.
the other 10? Like that second half of the battle is just, yeah, okay, all right, I'll roll the die, hit him. Okay, I kill that guy, and it's just like, yeah, like at
I
that
kinda
point,
do,
you killed half of them. Let's go.
I kind of do like not a system, like, because CNC doesn't have it, but I do that on my own. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
we're not going to belabor this. Like these guys either split or you've killed them all or
yeah,
stuff like that. If it's a big boss, we're going to figure that out, one way or the other. But yeah, I'll do that. But I think it's great to have in a game, in like a D&D style game.
yeah, yeah. Matt, what you use morale
Y-
rules when you
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the games that I run have it in there. But even if they don't, I've started to use it exactly for that reason of, this fight is like very clearly and very obviously reached the tipping point.
yeah, the fight's over.
And do we
Why
need
do
to
we need to? Yeah,
do we need to spend another 20 minutes, right? It's like if it's a system that gives you XP for killing stuff, like you get the XP, they drop their weapons and run away, like let's go to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Yep.
not spend another 15 minutes just
Belaboring it.
bashing these things. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I do think it's a good system. That and the reaction rolls, right? I love reaction rolls.
Yeah.
I know we didn't really talk about that, but like at the start of
Yeah,
an
we didn't,
encounter,
but yeah.
right? Like one of the I've run Rot Black Sludge probably 15 times now, and my favorite time running it was one where we rolled the initial room with the guards. I rolled one guard and he was indifferent. So like this group of 5 freakazoids like comes in the room and he's sitting there eating soup and he just like looks at them and just goes right back to eating his soup and just doesn't give a shit.
I didn't see
Yeah.
nothing.
And they're
I
like,
don't
"Hey,
know
we're here
nothing."
for this guy," and he's like, "All right, whatever. I mean, I don't give a shit. Whatever you say,
Yeah.
It's just like, I think that combination of those two things
Yeah.
really adds a lot of color and flavor to encounters, kind of like we talked about before, so they don't all feel the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like the monsters that keep making their morale rolls and fight to the death. Like as a DM, there's a story opportunity there, right?
Yeah.
What was different about these guys?
Mhm.
Like, why did they do this? Is there something that's different about them than your average cookie cutter group of orcs or whatever?
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, I think it adds a little extra layer that I like.
And I use reaction tables as well, especially when I'm rolling random encounters and stuff. I'll do that, which is and we probably should have covered that earlier, but yeah, I love the encounter tables. I use Frank Menser's encounter reaction tables from Basic, from Redbox.
Mhm.
Those are the ones I use, but those are awesome. And what else on morale? Anybody got anything else on morale?
I like it. Again, the whole realism thing that I like. There's never been a war fought in history where somebody didn't break ranks and run off into the woods trying to
The
escape.
entire army always fights to
Right.
complete obliteration.
Yeah,
every
you know,
time. Yeah, right.
And and if that were true, there would be no such thing as POWs.
Yeah,
or
right.
the
Mhm.
prisoner
Sure.
swaps. People surrender. And like a monster that doesn't have a concept of mortality, like an air elemental, is going to fight till it's destroyed because
Sure.
it doesn't think that way. But orcs, at least according to Amazon, they have babies, they have kids, they have family back home.
Yeah. Well,
These, these, and I'm being sarcastic because that show was
No, I-
trash, but
It's so bad.
yeah, it's terrible. But
Yeah.
they do reproduce. They do have familial units. They're mortal. They know what pain is, and they know that if I run away, I might be able to go away, and maybe I'll be able
Yeah.
to come back in when they're sleeping, or I'm going to get my 20 friends and we're going to try again. Or these guys are way out of my league. I am not going to stop running until I can't see them anymore. And so that like Matt said, there's role playing opportunities in there. It's endless. But if you just throw this wall of creatures into the grinder, it's this. Every battle is exactly the same because the monster's never going to give up, and we can't give up because we're the players. So we've got to fight, until we kill them all, and that's just not a lot of fun for me. So yeah.
How do you guys feel about PC death?
I don't like
I'm
it.
all for it.
Well, I don't like it either, and I'll try and help out, as much as I can. I mean, to the limits of, what I can do. But I mean, it's at some point there's, it's inevitable, right? That like a player is going to do something or whatever, or they're going to get hit by something. And I mean, I don't fudge rolls, so I mean, shit happens, but I mean, I think it's an inevitable thing, especially in an OSR game. I mean, where you really have to have, that I think, every now and again, just because, you have to show that the world's dangerous, right? And that stuff happens as much as that is like a feel bad moment for a player. I think it needs to happen. I mean, you guys were fighting a dragon a couple weeks ago, right? A pretty powerful dragon, and four
Pretty
people
powerful.
died?
It was extremely powerful.
Four
Yeah.
people died. Two
Permanently.
got rezzed. 5 people
Yeah.
died, and two got
Yeah.
rezzed, I think.
Yeah, 2 got rezzed. Yeah.
One player waited outside for the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah. To answer your question,
yeah.
I think it's inevitable. We're playing a game where, everything is fighting you because you're fighting everything. So
Sure.
Eventually it's going to catch up to you. It's just going to happen. And I think Takato said that at one point. I don't mind my characters dying as long as I don't feel like I've been railroaded. That has happened twice that I can remember. And, one time was clearly the DM had a bad week at school. He was a teacher. And when he had a bad week, he took it out on his players. No, it wasn't you. This was back in Alaska. When he was having a bad week, he took it out on his players. And he blatantly murdered my character. And I was furious. The whole group was annoyed. I was furious, and I was like, I will never play with this guy again. And it sucked because he was a really good DM, but when he was having a bad day, it was terrible. So as long as I don't feel like I'm being abused, it's part of the game. I don't like it. Shellback talking about celebrating, every character's death. I don't. I'm a little crazy, well aware. As soon as I give a character a name, that's a living person to me. There are a lot of people living in my head, and so when my character dies, I don't take it personal. I mean, like Roger was talking about 2 weeks ago, we fought a 20 hit die white dragon, and it did not go well. We finished it off. We did not. I died quickly. But I didn't take it personally because it wasn't Roger attacking me. It was my cleric with paladin he was being foolish is what it was. I developed a plan. That plan fell apart quickly, and I paid for it. It was upsetting because in my head, Yohai has another 30 years of plans ahead of him, so those got cut short. The guy's 20 years old and now he's dead. Also, another part of that is, I'm playing the cleric in the party. So now if my 8th level cleric dies, the party is without a cleric, and that's going to be crippling. So that's kind of, it kind of sucks. But on the other hand, Yohai died fighting a 20-hit die white dragon. That's pretty badass. So that part I like about it. As long as my character has a fair but earned death, I'm cool with it. Just don't be murderers. The flip side of that is I don't like PCs being murder hobos and murdering NPCs. I've seen
Sure.
that many times.
Sure.
In fact, that is why I don't DM anymore. I got tired of my murder hobo players doing it. It was annoying. Boy, that was a really long answer.
Yeah.
I am emotionally attached to my players. I do not like it when they die, but when that happens, I'm like, this is part of the game. I've been playing this game for a long time. If it happens, it happens. So there you go.
Yeah. What, Matt, what do you got for thoughts?
I mean, that's hard to follow up. No, I mean, it's really good. I mean, I think a big part of it is, you never want to lose a character in a situation where the DM didn't make it obvious that there was like danger or something at stake, right? So that's kind of those cheap deaths or railroad deaths where it's like you don't see it coming, and you as a player like couldn't have prevented it. Right. So to your point, Jason, it's like, look, I know I know what we're fighting.
Mhm.
Right. And like, I know the kind of game that we're in. So there's stakes. Like if I didn't feel like there was any chance that any of us were going to die, I think you're wired a lot like me. Like that game's not really that much fun.
Mhm.
Right. Because it's like, there's no stakes now. Like, what are we even really doing? Right. The outcome's already predetermined.
Yep.
Right.
And I think 5e suffers a lot from that, where it's just so
Yeah.
hard to kill people, and the combats take so long. So it's like, well, what are we even doing? Like, no, we're not going to die, and this combat took 4 hours. What was the point? But I've also played in games where it's like, I remember playing in one Mothership game in particular, where it was like, I got to the end, and like my character was like, all right, well, I'll approach and check this out, and it's like, okay, you're dead, and it's like, okay, like, and that's just poor module design,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like. I mean, like that sucked. Like there was no information communicated that like this was a life or death situation, and that sucks. So yeah, I mean, but I also play a lot of games where it's like, look, I like funnels, right? Like sometimes it's fun to just like look at these little weirdos and how many the funny ways that they get killed. I mean, I'll tell you, like, so I was at Gamehole Con and I played a Shadow Dark game the first day. And we to your same kind of thing, we were like, we're gonna fight these troglodytes, and we have a plan, and 2 rounds in, the whole plan's falling apart. Now people are getting roughed up. So like, my character runs in and gets killed. All right, so I get a new character. So GM gives me the stack, and I find this halfling named Frob Rabkins, who sounds like an extra from The Hobbit that got cut for time or whatever, right? And it's this halfling ranger with like absurd stats. Like 16 in this, 15 in this, 15 in this. He can turn invisible. He's got like 6 hit points at level 1. He's got like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to be this guy. So it's like, all right. So like, all right, gets to your turn. And it's like, all right, turning visible out of nowhere. Frab Rabkins like takes this sword and he's like, I'll cut you guys down. Nat 1, sword goes flying across the thing. The GM's up next. 2 enemies turn around, kill him. He had 1 turn and he dies, right? All the guys in that group, the whole rest of the con, every time they saw me, they're like, that's the guy that was playing Frab Rabkins. So, like sometimes that stuff is like a lot of fun if it's like in the right game, in the right mood. But yeah, I mean, it's a very different thing when you're playing a campaign for a long time and you're invested and you have a cheap death out of nowhere. Yeah, that is the worst.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, you mentioned funnels. That's one of those situations where I have no attachment. I
Right.
named them A, B, C, and D. Whoever survives gets a name, and now it's a character. Other than that, it's just
There you go.
and I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's what
yeah.
they're meant to be. I
Yes.
mean, that's
Yeah.
meant to be
Yeah, and I love those because I can just sit there and play the game. Yeah, it means nothing to me. At one shots, like going to cons and doing one shots, I'm not emotionally attached to anybody.
Mhm.
I can just play this game and have a hell of a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you something about Jason's characters.
No,
He's so attached to his characters that as soon as he for a campaign game, obviously not for one shots, he makes his characters and he's got like, as soon as they're on paper, like he's got a book written about them in their head with their entire life story and their entire life history and stuff. And he's got a blacksmith that's got it's a steel arm, a metal arm, or
No,
whatever. He's missing an arm.
adamantite. Yeah.
Adamantine arm, and like so he created a character. So it was like
And the
missing an
DM
arm.
did that.
And-
That had nothing to do with me. He lost his arm in a fight, and that was I was like, I'm tiring this dude, and he's like, oh, you wake up with this. Anyway,
Yeah.
carry on. Sorry,
And
go ahead.
so and so it's funny. So he's got this guy who's a blacksmith. It's in the game, right? And he's just really like an NPC. He hasn't really taken him out. And the guy's existed in town, and everybody knows that he's a blacksmith and knows that he's existed.
Nobody
in town
knows his name.
for like a year and a half, like in game or whatever. And then like yesterday or Sunday, it comes up, and people are like, "Oh wait, don't you have a blacksmith?" And I was like, "Yeah, nobody probably remembers his name though."
Yeah, I do.
And
He's a
then,
sixth
like,
level
his
paladin.
name,
No one's
and
ever
then
spoken a
he's
word to him.
And yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I thought he was missing an arm. How's he's a blacksmith?" He's like, "Well, he's got an adamantium arm." He's like, "You people never wanted to talk to him. Nobody asked him any questions." No,
Yeah, nobody said shit to him.
no. Like,
His niece is a
know.
tattoo artist that can
He's
do
got
magical
the whole thing,
tattoos
yeah.
because and like they animate. And I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing. Like every adventure is going to get like this badass tattoo. This will be cool. I announced at the table, and everybody looked at me like so.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, fuck all you. Oh, sorry. I was, the hell with all you guys, man.
so
Yohai's getting a tattoo. Nobody else has anything. I'm
Um,
like, whatever. I don't care.
So we're like almost at the 3 hour 10-minute mark. Any last thoughts or anything else that we want to talk about quickly about combat or anything that that we missed? I don't know. I know we talked about a lot of stuff, but no, we're good. Decato's shaking his head. Jason,
We're
no.
good.
Matt, we're
Covered.
good.
I knew I was gonna like this cast.
Yeah.
When you told me the subject, I was like, yes, all this is gonna be so much fun.
Yeah,
Had
this is
a
awesome.
great time tonight. Yeah,
Yeah, great time, guys. Really good
yeah.
discussion.
Matt, dude,
Yeah,
it's been
this was
awesome
fun.
having you, man. This has been
So-
I am so happy when Roger told me you were coming on. This has been great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man,
appreciate it.
man, it's fantastic. It's good to have you. Good to see you. Hopefully, we can get you on again sometime. You're welcome to come back. I mean, you didn't insult us for the most part, so
Well
we're
done.
good.
No, I mean, listen, I love some of the games that I've run with you guys are my absolute favorite ones I've run at cons because it's just when you get to play with people that sort of get what's going on and really want to interact with things. I mean, it's like those games are so memorable and they're so much fun to run. So yeah, I've really enjoyed watching your guys your videos
Yeah.
since you started doing it. And so yeah, I was like, you know what, I'll ping him and see if he minds if I
Awesome.
insert myself into one of these because it's been fun. So appreciate it.
And thanks for watching, man.
yeah,
when
we,
you told us that when
yeah.
you first came on, I was like, wow, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've had
absolutely.
a lot of fun times in your games and stuff, and
Yeah.
even my daughter loved the Vaults of Arn game.
The Vaults of Arn, yeah. That was a good one.
She like goes around, she like tells her friends that she played she got to play, like they ask her about going to the gaming convention, so we're going in a few weeks, and she's like, oh yeah, it was fun. I went the last time, I played a mushroom person and got high on cocaine and like all of this, and the parents and
mic
stuff
image.
are like, wait, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, it's fine.
It really is for the devil. Oh my god.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
So funny.
fantastic. So she loved that, and I backed the Vaults of Arn stuff for her. So I'm
Awesome.
getting some copies of the second edition of that. And so
Speaking
that's
of
that's
speaking
cool.
of backing, do you want to talk about Arduin real quick, or do you want me to do it? Or
It's over.
yes,
Kickstarter's over. They did
hit
it.
over. I think it was almost 55K. I could be a little wrong about that, but I
Did
know
they
it
hit
was over
55K?
50K.
I know they got over 40. Yeah.
Yeah, I know they
Wow.
hit at least 51 because that's what I saw last time. But yeah. So and
It's
most people
amazing.
that are watching this cast right now saw the one with Dave and George. So if you got any of you backed it, thank you very much for backing Arduin.
Yeah.
They're great guys, and I'm super excited for those guys.
Yeah, they're
So,
fantastic, and they'll be up at CNY. Matt will be there too. This Matt will be there hopefully, but Matt from Barrows and Borderlands, who was in on that, he's going to be at CNY running
nice.
some games. Hopefully, this Matt will be at CNY next year.
I'm gonna try. Yeah, I was talking to my. Yeah, I'm gonna try. Let's see. It's what's the date for this one again?
June 12th through 14th. Here we go. There's the
Yeah, dude, you have the best. You have the best flyers in the business. I'll tell you that. It's
Thank
just
you.
the best. They're so, man. I love them so much.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you're timing them out right when the school year ends every time. So I'll see. I'll try to make it work.
I
But
know it's rough.
I want to come. I did. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I definitely want to come. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, God,
No.
those flyers and posters and like that. It's just, man, they just really speak to me.
And
I love them.
We obviously, Matt, we'd love to have you up here running some games and to hang out with you and stuff. It's fantastic. And
Yeah.
pretty much all weekend we do exactly this. We just talk about
Nerd.
gaming and stuff
Awesome.
when we're not playing, and it's just fantastic. And we're doing movie night. We're gonna do Conan the Barbarian. We're gonna do a movie meet and greet. To be
That's
free,
awesome.
free popcorn for everybody. It's gonna be fantastic, I think. So,
Nice.
So it's gonna be great.
Cool.
So we'll see you guys on the other side, and everybody out there. We'll see you guys next week. Next week we're going to talk about spell casting. I believe GM Bloodworth is going to be joining us. So that's going to be exciting. We're talking about magic, different magic systems, and all of that fun stuff. You know how that goes. And so that'll be another long discussion about roll the cast or not and all of that stuff. So, but we will see you guys next week. So take care for now.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
See y'all.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks everybody. See ya.